Is Leon worthy? Leon might not know the answer to that himself. Although he is always voicing the irrationality of fate, the Holy Sword wants the opportunity to be given to him fairly. Presently, Leon is fighting a blonde boy from the Royal Academy who is also named Lion, and is far stronger than him. With his fighting skills and good looks, Leon thinks the blonde deserves to be among the noblemen, not the commoners. When the fight is over and Leon is defeated once again, he and Lion are joined by a girl who expresses her displeasure at Leon for getting into a fight when he knew he wouldn't win. She tries to get him to treat his injured finger, but Leon snubs her and walks away, leaving the girl hurt behind him. Later at night, when he's training all alone, Leon is bitter and resentful for not being blonde, not having a supporting family, and not having a master of the same level as Lion. He wonders if things would be different if he were of noble blood. Tired and defeated, he drops to the floor and doubts everything about life, wanting desperately to give up. He shouts towards the sky, certain no one's going to respond. However, just then, a bright light appears, and Leon sits up with a jerk. On the other hand, Lion, the pride of the Royal Academy, is throwing a birthday party. Chloe is with him, but is concerned for Leon. When she leaves to look for him, a member of the staff, Sir Gilbert, addresses him as His Highness, hinting at his noble lineage as opposed to his assertions. But the blonde Leon is determined to keep his identity hidden, and tells Sir Gilbert to be careful when addressing him, even in private. Gilbert, however, once again hints at his noble ancestry and congratulates him on his 17th birthday. There's only a year left until the prophecy passed down in the imperial family takes place. The life of the current emperor, who is afraid of the prophecy, will come to an end, and the citizens will witness the advent of the past holy king, Roderick. Lion thinks Gilbert has high expectations from him, yet he wants Chloe, who possesses special talent and is already learning 4th-tier magic, and Leon, a man of effort possessing a stronger mentality than anyone else, by his side. The prophecy says that on the day a man who bears the name of a lion reaches adulthood, a sword that destroys evil will descend from the sky. A sword has fallen from the sky. As Leon tries to make sense of the situation, he hears its voice. Upon hearing it speak the human language, Leon comes to the shocking conclusion that the sword in front of him is the Holy Sword. It answered his call and agrees with his beliefs. The world is indeed unfair, as those who have it all gain more and those who do not lose everything. But opportunity must be given fairly. And as Leon was the one who questioned the goddess of irrationality of fate, the sword asks him if he has worked hard enough to be worthy of it. Leon clenches his fist and announces with passion that he is worthy. The sword then invites Leon to take hold of it. Leon thinks of all the training he's done without missing a single day. He was always ranked, regardless of his efforts. He'd been working hard to destroy the unfair reality that he couldn't accept. He didn't want to turn his resolve and efforts into worthless trash. He wanted to prove himself using an opportunity that was given fairly. Thus, Leon turns his back on the Holy Sword. This action proves Leon's righteousness as a hero to the sword, and it urges Leon to pull it out. When Leon asks if he is the hero chosen by an oracle, the sword tells him that this is purely its will. Leon's powerful mentality that will not bend to noble blood and families, and even irrational fate itself, his will to prove his convictions rather than greed for gold and fame. All these conditions have made him worthy of becoming a hero. This is the right that Leon has gained, as well as an opportunity that has been given fairly. As the sword announces its name as Elcid, Leon pulls it out. It is a clone of the holy king Rodrigo Caldius el Vivar, and the sword that guides this era's light. Just then, someone asks King Rodrigo himself why he broke the prophecy. He explains that Lion doesn't meet his standards. He has both talent and fate, but lacks will. He hasn't bloomed. When the other person doesn't complain, Rodrigo assumes they have taken a liking to Leon as well. He believes that Leon will be even better than the former hero if he uses his inheritance. It's about time that everyone repaid their debts. The next day, Leon wakes up and assumes the previous night was all a dream. But the sword is still standing against the wall. It reminds him that just because he has earned the sword doesn't mean he will get stronger immediately. He'll have to face trials much more difficult than the opportunity he has earned. He may have to sacrifice the people close to him to live the special life he has chosen. The sword then asks him to show what he can do with it. When Elcid reprimands Leon for being so restless, he tells her he's worried he doesn't know what to say about her if someone runs into them, since she stands out a lot. Elcid tells him she's got away and proceeds to mark Leon's hand. Now, with his hand as the sheath, he can pull her out at any time. Her spirit form cannot be seen by anyone but him. Leon wanders, and Elcid puts him back on track by demanding that he show his skills. Leon is concerned she'd be disappointed, but Elcid seems to know that he has given his absolute best in the environment he was placed in. He had trained day in and day out. Right now, when he swings the wooden sword around, he feels different, as though strength is flowing into his hands. He thinks that's because he has gained someone's trust. The sword couldn't hold even the simple movements, however, much to Leon's surprise, and broke down. Although repetitive training of the basics is useful when mastering a certain thing, Elcid didn't expect it to be possible for a non-aura user to be able to pull that off. Elcid won't tell Leon what exactly caused the sword to break, as she believes her skills won't improve if he relies on it. She will teach him, though, when he has ripened. Since Leon has already vigorously trained the basics to the point where there's nothing major to criticize, Elcid is of the opinion that she should teach him how to move his body. Knowing how to move your body effectively is the foundation of martial arts. Therefore, Elcid instructs him to run, do headstands, and run with one leg. The great king in the frame is thinking about Leon and how he's no different from a fully made vessel. Even if Leon inherits a small portion of the swordsmanship and experience of the ancient heroes, he'll at least be able to become a swordmaster. But the king doesn't want his successor after 300 years to stop at the realm of a master. Leon should be able to easily slay a dragon. The king does not know exactly how powerful the current era's demon king is. He thinks half of his power should be enough. Since he's worked hard training with Elcid, Leon finds it difficult to focus on the lectures. Elcid appears in the class, and when she asks him what Leon thinks he lacks, he tells her it's probably swordsmanship or aura, only he's wrong. It's his eyes. Elcid has begun Leon's training on learning how to see. In the classroom, she tells him to use the teacher at the blackboard as a focal point and look at the scene for 10 seconds. Then Leon is asked to close his eyes and recall how many lines of text were written on the blackboard. But as Leon had been focusing on the teacher, he never looked at the contents of the blackboard, so he was unable to answer. Elcid explains that the reason he can't remember is because he only tried to look at what was important. Leon needs to focus on his entire field of vision and memorize every single figure reflected in his eyes, like a drawing. Elcid tells him to relax his eyes and figure out how to see in a more expansive way. Later on, he must learn to do it at all times instead of just for 10 seconds. Leon resists complaining and follows Elcid's instructions. After class, Leon's eyes are red and dry, and his head feels like it's about to split open, which Elcid takes to mean that things are going well. She explains that the headache is because the attributes had been lying dormant until now, and pain has appeared from the unleashing of what had been frozen. Comparatively speaking, it is similar to a form of muscle soreness. As Leon makes his way to his room, Elcid continues his training. She asks him random questions about his surroundings that Leon sometimes gets right and other times comes up blank on. Back in his room, Leon complains about his sore eyes, and Elcid commends him for not asking to rest or stop despite them. Elcid then tells him that getting used to the trainings can also mean that he's stagnating. There's a limit to how far he can go just by training in the exact same way, and though there are pros to repetition training, it would be a huge problem if his body found an easy way to do it. Therefore, Elcid explains that training while switching between several methods is an absolute must. Leon finally understands that the basics of training are to hone your strengths and make up for your weaknesses, and that the Elcid has decided to tackle that part before anything else. Elcid then goes on to inform him that he lacks both physical and mental flexibility, which prompts Leon to ask her about swordsmanship and aura. Swordsmanship is ultimately the best way to handle a sword, Elcid explains. If Leon can freely apply the fundamental movements to match the situation, then that in itself is swordsmanship, and in terms of aura, Someone like Leon, with absolutely no background, suddenly learning aura would raise the suspicions of many people. Hence, Elcid agrees to teach Leon aura when he's outside the academy and tells him to focus on mastering how to see for now. As Leon gets fired up, Elcid informs him that she'll be giving him a punishment every time he answers wrong, to the point that there is no leisure for him to get accustomed to, so that he doesn't get tired from the same method of training. Elcid tells Leon that the punishments are not because she is harassing him for no reason. They are because there needs to be someone who pushes him. Leon realizes that Elcid is right and agrees to follow the system of punishment. Elcid immediately delivers the first shock, which she couldn't adjust properly, but she promises to go a little weaker from the next one onward. As time passes, Leon continues to train with Elcid and gradually shows improvement. After a month, Leon finally manages to earn a break. Just as he's celebrating, Lion comes up behind him. Leon realizes he hasn't talked to either Lion or Chloe in about a month. Lion is relieved to see him in the training hall. As it had been a month since Leon had asked him for a duel, Lion thought he had given up like everyone else, but it's clear from his face that he's still eager to go. The faces of the people who think they can't beat him are very different from Leon's. When Leon asks the blonde about his business, he invites him to sit down and talk, as they haven't talked in a while. After a little resistance, Leon relents and sits down. Lion then asks him if he's heard the rumors that mention that he's not a commoner. When he makes it obvious that he has, Lion tells him to think of what he's about to ask him as coming from Lion, who's hiding his identity, rather than his underclassmen. When he agrees, Lion asks if he knows that he accepted his duels one-sidedly. Leon knows that the blonde wouldn't have been affected in any way by him refusing. The continuation of their duels was solely due to Lion's kindness. As he's thinking, the other boy asks him to wrap their duels up. When he is shocked, Lion assures him that he doesn't mean now. He intends their next match to be their last, and he wants them to use real swords instead of wooden ones. If the other boy wins, Leon will have to become his vassal. In exchange, if Leon wins, the blonde boy promises to give him anything he wants, as long as it doesn't endanger his family and honor. Leon agrees to the conditions, and they part ways. The great King Rodrigo is looking forward to the duel between the commoner the Holy Sword chose and the prince who is trying to take over the throne, but Leon is nervous. Elcid is surprised to find Leon anxious before the match. He doubts that he has become much stronger despite the training, but Elcid assures him that that is not true. She explains that how to see is a different part of strength than physical strength. Therefore, never having properly used it, it's obvious that Leon can't feel it. She assures him that he has nothing to worry about because something beyond his imagination might happen. The next day, the academy conducts a physical fitness check in which the students are ranked purely on their physical strength. Nevertheless, the noble class always ranked the highest because they have been taking medicine and doing special gymnastics ever since they were young. Leon was previously ranked 9th and Lion 1st. He completed the 800-meter run in under 1 minute and 20 seconds last time, while Leon took 1 minute and 40 seconds. The 20-second difference seems insurmountable to Leon, but Elcid tells him not to be afraid before even trying, because this time he has the Holy Sword on his side. Leon's race starts, and he quickly gets ahead of his peers, surprising Lion. He finishes in 1 minute and 29 seconds, which makes the instructor suspicious. He checks Leon for any aura in his body, and is impressed with his progress in just a few weeks when he finds none. As everyone around him wonders about his improvement, Lion appears upset. When Leon, surprised by the change himself, asks Elcid for an explanation, she tells him that most of the training methods in this world are focused on increasing the size and density of the muscles. But if you don't understand the muscular nerves, you're only halfway there. The limit of power that can be exerted is determined depending upon the development of the nerves. The reason why strength doesn't necessarily depend on the physique is because of the difference in muscle nerves. Thus, Elcid had been focusing on developing Leon's muscular nervous system through the punishments he received during his training. When Leon asks Elcid why she never told him about it, she reveals that it would have been unfair. If he knew the reason for the punishments, he would not have been able to concentrate as well as he did. When it's Lion's turn to run 800 meters, He breaks his own record, much to Leon's disappointment. Elsid congratulates him on finishing second overall, but Leon is not satisfied. Elsid advises him to not be hungry from the start, but Leon believes he can win. Leon asks Elsid about the kind of training they'll be starting the next day, and Elsid reveals that he has nothing else to work on for his physical abilities. What he needs is experience practicing what he's learned. That's why she thinks they should leave. This prompts Leon to ask Elsid to teach him swordsmanship again, but Elsid refuses. She believes Leon needs to learn aura first, because the techniques that don't make use of the aura are ultimately just body movements. If those simple movements are read, they could be used as bait for the opponent's counter. Someone like Lion, who is an orthodox swordsman, will never fall for such foolish trickery. Thus, Leon needs to focus on his strengths. As long as his physical abilities are increased to a similar level, even if it's Leon, he won't be completely dominated. Regardless, he needs some real-life experience, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be available at the academy. The next day, Leon is accosted by a group of haughty noble students led by the Countess Bourbon's second son, Elmont. He had consistently been in second place in the stamina analysis until recently. Thus, they are all upset that Leon, a commoner, has surpassed them, ranking second, and believe that he cheated on his fitness test. When Leon doesn't take Elmont's hand, he puts forward a challenge. They will compete against each other under an instructor's supervision. Leon knows that this is an unfair proposition. The fact that not using aura wasn't included basically means they will be using aura. Even if he objects, Elmont could use the art trick that even fooled the instructor and just cover it up. If he rejects the proposition altogether, they would obviously try to harm him some other way. Lion could get him out of this situation, but Leon refuses to beg his rival for help. Therefore, in the end, Leon accepts the challenge and puts forward some conditions of his own. The supervising instructor must be Helmut, and Leon will only take on one guy per day. In the case that he wins, he makes them swear to never bring up suspicions about his abilities again. Elmont agrees to the conditions easily, confident in his strength. Later that day, Leon asks Elsid if she thinks he can win against them. This sparks an idea in Elsid's mind, as she asks to show him in a way that is easy. Elsid snaps her fingers, and a status window pops up, detailing Leon's skill level and various stats. She presents him Elmont's status window as well, which shows that he is much weaker than Leon, apart from his ability to wield an aura and a hidden swordsmanship technique. When Leon is surprised, Elsid explains that no matter how many elixirs you take, if you can't digest them, they're no different from healthy foods. The physical ability one can exhibit without using an aura reaches its limit at E rank 99, but Leon was able to surpass that with Elsid's help, in addition to his own effort. Even if he doesn't have an aura, his power is at a level where he can handle Elmont and the rest of his gang. This makes Leon resolve to win. The next day, Leon shows up at the training hall, where instructor Helmut is already waiting for him. He was expecting to have to stop Leon from doing something reckless, but he sees that there is no need. Telling Leon to set an example for the challengers, Helmut leads him into the crowded hall. His first competitor is Jeff Heinrich. As the match starts, Chloe expresses her concern regarding Jeff's wooden sword being able to act like a real sword if he infuses it with aura. It puts Leon at a disadvantage, but he is confident and refuses to borrow Elsid's power to help defeat him. Jeff charges at Leon, who can clearly see the trajectory of his attack. He prepares accordingly, but is surprised to find Jeff's movements slower than he'd expected. Taking advantage of the situation, Leon counters and, in one quick strike, takes Jeff to the ground. Jeff slowly gets back up and demands Leon face him once more, refusing to accept defeat. When Leon agrees, Jeff calls on his aura. Elsid advises Leon not to end the match with a single strike again. She reminds him that this is his first real fight while activating his optical technique. Since Jeff is supposed to be good target practice for him, he should let him know that ending him with one strike was an act of kindness. When Jeff attacks again, Leon dodges his every move since he can see his movements, and guess what happens next? Using his aura, Jeff manages to slice off a bit of Leon's hair, but he isn't deterred. He is surprised that Jeff would mindlessly attack him repeatedly, even though he is a difficult opponent. Despite the aura, Leon knows Jeff has a limit, and sure enough, he soon finds an opening and strikes his legs. Jeff backs off, but thinks Leon is naive and should have dealt a proper, incapacitating blow. As he stands there mocking, Leon unleashes a volley of attacks on him that he is unable to defend against. Leon has thus easily defeated Jeff. To Elsid, Leon admits that she was right. Having a moving opponent is best for using the E-optical technique during training. Jeff surrenders, and Leon is crowned winner of the match, much to the displeasure of Elmont and the rest of his gang. Later, all the students talk about Leon and his victories against all his challengers. The only match left is against Elmont himself. They wonder if Leon can win against Elmont too. As they walk to the next match, Elsid expresses her disappointment in the skills of Leon's challengers. They looked as if they'd be strong, but their swordsmanship and physical discipline have no substance. It's a wonder they were at that level, even with the aura. As Leon walks into the hall, Elmont and the audience are already waiting for him. Despite the aura and the hidden swordsmanship technique Elmont possesses, Leon believes he can win using Rodsigo's optical technique. A fight with Elmont is the perfect prelude to beating Leon. In the case that Elmont uses the aura within his sword, it'd be dangerous to stop him with a wooden sword. As Leon contemplates treating this like a proper match, it begins, and Elmont is already making the first attack. The sword energy from his swing cuts Leon's cheek and barely passes by him. Elmont then stands there, mocking Leon, who takes his chance and lunges at him. His sword manages to graze Elmont's cheek, who retaliates by calling Leon's talents insignificant. Elsid takes it as a personal insult. Elsid warns Leon that if he doesn't break a few of Elmont's perfectly aligned teeth by the end of the match, he will receive his punishment. Leon resolves to break as much as he can, and the match resumes. The audience is excited to see Elmont being pushed back, but Lion clarifies that Leon might have gained some momentum. But Elmont's blame is not broken. At this rate, it's going to be a battle of attrition for Leon. Leon tries to make up for his lack of strength and speed with Rodsigo's optical technique. If he could just see that much faster, he could somehow turn the tables. Faster, more accurately, and with a wider scope, until the enemies within his vision feel as if they're moving underwater. As Leon blocks Elmont's attack, his technique seems to have worked. Both Elmont and the instructor find it difficult to believe that Leon is not using an aura. At this point, Elmont is forced to unveil his hidden swordsmanship technique. As he prepares to launch it, Leon tries to read his movements. Elmont employs a thrusting attack that Leon believes he can dodge, but it was a trap. The hidden sword technique of the House of Bourbon, the crescent stab, is a trajectory that directly strikes the heart. Even if Leon moves his body as much as he can, his ribcage will still be hit, and he won't be able to fight further with broken ribs. Leon knows he can't simply dodge the attack, but he refuses to lose. In the nick of time, his thighs gain enough energy to propel him into a jump over Elmont's head, during which he manages to land a hit on Elmont's arm. With one arm damaged, Elmont is now at a disadvantage, but he refuses to give up. He thinks if he can destroy Leon's wooden sword, then there are plenty of chances for him to win, even if he uses a single arm. Elmont attacks once again, but Leon strikes the sword right out of his hand and continues to hit him until some of his teeth fall out. Leon emerges as the victor once more and has made Elsid very happy. Elsid then tells him that she was surprised to see he'd already opened the gates to Axel. Elsid explains the concept of Axel to Leon. The human body moves slower than its consciousness, even more so when one's in an accelerated state. Your reflexes are a result of your quick consciousness. There's no particular effect on the speed. Additionally, if one doesn't use aura, the body cannot withstand the repelling movement. That's why one is able to use Axel after they have generally mastered aura. But Leon wasn't even using aura before he used Axel. It's an amazing feat, even though it was limited to his thighs, and was an incomplete success. If Leon had used his entire body instead of just his thighs, his insides would have been wrecked. Elsid warns him that the recoil from even just using his thighs is probably on its way, and sure enough, as he says this, Leon collapses under a wave of muscle soreness. Later, false rumors about Leon, spread by the defeated Elmont and his gang, follow Leon as he wanders the corridors of the academy. Just then, he runs into Chloe and they go outside to talk. Chloe declares that Leon has changed and tells him how worried she and Lion were during his duel with the nobles. This leads Leon to wonder how long it has been since he has been able to talk to her comfortably like this. He now understands what she used to feel when he used to snub her in his jealousy for Lion. Because of the anguish he felt that his efforts wouldn't match up, he blamed the world and hurt himself. As Chloe continues to talk to Leon, she is startled to find tears rolling down his face. Even though El Cid is mean and rude, his holy sword saved him from an endless pit. Meanwhile, the great King Rodrigo is shocked to find Leon suddenly leveling up through the simple act of talking to Chloe. Feeling grateful to El Cid, Leon resolves to become someone without faults. As the owner of the holy sword, he'll become a warrior who goes beyond El Cid's expectations. The great King Rodrigo and El Cid can't figure out what happened, but it doesn't matter, as Leon has now become someone worth raising. At night, Leon thinks back to his conversation with Chloe. She told him that he's similar to Lion, but there's still a difference. It's like the difference between someone who's looking upwards and someone who's looking forward. She also wanted him to talk to Lion occasionally, as there is no one else in her grade who would be honest with his feelings and could get along with him. However, Leon cannot do what Chloe asked. He has a match coming up against Lion, who stands under the sky looking forward to the match himself. The next day, Leon continues his training with the wooden sword, but is frustrated to find that it can't even last in its complete state. Apart from the training proficiency of the technique, it's so powerful that it puts a lot of strain on the sword. After all, the training sword is generally weaker than the real sword, so he has to be careful. Leon believes that he needs to succeed only once, since it's obvious that he'd get countered by a genius like Lion if he uses the same technique on him multiple times. Leon will need to surpass his skills, read what he's thinking, and gain victory over him. Leon's determination makes El Cid tease Leon about getting worried after seeing Lion's status window. Lion is apparently an aura user at an intermediate level where he can use sword energy. Plus, he's able to manifest aura outside his body. This makes him stronger than most instructors. Leon is no doubt intimidated by his strength, but he believes that while he might lose in strength and speed, he has a little more stamina. Lion is definitely a tough opponent, but he's not someone he can't win against. When El Cid commends him for his unwavering mindset, Leon asks him what will happen if he loses against Lion. El Cid refuses to answer that, since this is a test for him. As she'd already told him in the beginning, the trials Leon has to endure will be harsher than getting opportunities. This fight could be the turning point of his life. El Cid promises to explain everything once he wins against Lion. Meanwhile, Sir Gilbert sits in Lion's room as he admires the results of Leon's recent battles. Since he won against the second son of a count family with a body that can't use aura, it seems there's no need to doubt his potential anymore. Lion then reveals that there was a message from Leon, declaring that he's ready. Lion then asks Sir Gilbert for a favor as he resolves to win against Leon and make him his knight. Later, rain thunders all around him as Leon makes his way to the training hall. This time, the only audience for his match is Chloe. When Leon is confused, El Cid explains to him that since Leon thinks he likes Chloe, he intends to use this fight to pull her towards him. There are many instances where a king and his vassal have fought over a woman. Leon is shocked to learn that. Watching Leon lose and become Lion's vassal is a good enough reason for Lion to bring Chloe along as an observer to their fight. Lion's drawn a clear line between the ruler and the ruled in advance, and it truly seems like a thorough plan that he will execute. Lion's way of doing things this way disregards what Leon and Chloe would feel. A part of Leon has always known that Lion is a high-ranking noble, someone who tries to manipulate the relationships and the emotions of others, and this only proves it. It's a political trick that doesn't treat others on equal grounds. Ironically, that does not sound very noble. Leon asks Lion about the observer he invited, referring to Chloe, and learns that she is hidden in case any of them get distracted. Lion then proceeds to pop a pill into his mouth and, upon Leon's inquiry, tells him that it suppresses aura. Although Lion did say he wouldn't use aura, there is a chance it might come out unintentionally, in which case the fight would be a disaster. When the fight at last begins, Lion notices with a hint of concern that Leon is unlike his usual flippant self. On the other hand, Leon is worried he won't be able to last for long if he keeps taking Lion's attacks head on. The sword feels like a whip, and to boot, Lion is in a totally different league than Elmont. Although Leon is already using Rodrigo's vision, it's not of much help as Lion's figure looks more blurry and incomplete than all the other people he has fought so far. He needs to calm down and focus. The incomplete parts of Lion's figure will be compensated by the experience he has gained from his numerous fights with him. Everyone overseeing their fight is impressed and surprised at their skills. Even though the two boys are not using aura, the level of their swordsmanship and combat senses might be even greater than the knights themselves. When Lion attacks with a double feint, he thinks he's taken Leon down, but Leon stands tall and taunts him about his attacks not being as powerful as the first one. And it's then that Lion realizes that Leon was intending to make it a battle of stamina right from the start. The strategy that is nothing fanciful yet doesn't let you make a single mistake is called the stalling tactic. You stick to your enemy closely to eat away at their stamina, and then slowly run the tide in your favor. Lion can see Leon's desire to win. He has to break that will first. If he can't do that, Leon will never submit to him. So he attacks again. To Leon's utter dismay, Lion uses an arcane technique of the Imperial family. It uses muscles and blood flow to allow the use of strength beyond their limits. Even though it's not applied fully, since Lion is not using his aura, he believes even half of its power would be enough at the moment. Leon has to raise his vision to the maximum. He attempts to dodge Lion's attack, but he's not quick enough, resulting in a severe gash on his arm. It's hard for him to believe Lion is not using aura. Elcid appears out of thin air, then, and explains to him that the human body is far stronger than what he's giving it credit for. While there are body strengthening techniques that focus on speed, such as flash steps, there are also techniques that improve strength and endurance. She instructs him not to judge what can be done by common sense. Lion is furious when he sees Leon apparently distracted and relaxed. But Leon is far from relaxed. He's already at his limits and lost his flow when El Cid suddenly interrupted. A split second later, it hits him. El Cid didn't interrupt needlessly. She gave him a valuable pointer. Leon had thought that he only had a chance of winning by merely enduring the attacks. In order to protect the very slight advantage he had in stamina, he had wanted Lion to become exhausted through flash steps. The worst available solution he has is Axle, a technique that, unfortunately, he can't control. Hence, the only thing he needs to trust is the strength that he has accumulated so far. Lion, on the other hand, is determined to make Leon his vassal. Despite using flash steps consecutively without aura, Lion's not past his limits. The two, set on defeating each other, charge at each other at the same time. Leon succeeds in breaking Lion's sword, rendering him beaten and utterly shocked. What decided the match was the hint Leon got from Elmont's crescent stab. It's an unconventional sword technique that disrupts the upper body's timing. While Lion might be talented because his physical body can surpass its limits, he can't match Leon, who knows the limits of swords. After Leon has been declared the winner, El Cid remembers to ask him what he requested in case he won. Lion is ready to grant him anything he wants. However, Leon turned the offer down temporarily, as he didn't have anything in mind at that moment. Although Leon had managed to finish the fight without using Axle, it still feels like he pushed himself too much just because his opponent was Lion. As Leon takes a breather, leaning against the wall, Chloe comes over and heals his injuries with her magic. Chloe is a mix of emotions, angry yet proud of how much Leon has improved. She wants to know if he's planning to drop out of the academy. But Leon tells her it's still a secret. He then asks her to take care of Lion and help him overcome his defeat. Leon had always compared himself to Lion and Chloe and realized he'd never be able to match their status, consequently always having an inferiority complex. But everything changed when El Cid arrived and chose him as the hero. She tells him that she did so, despite the fact that Lion was prophesied to be the one. She says that pioneering one's own future with their own strength and willpower is also something that a hero does, and Lion lacks that. Leon knows that, since the great hero Rodrigo's soul and the holy sword El Cid chose him, he has to live up to their expectations. So the next day, he leaves the academy to become an adventurer. His instructor writes him a recommendation letter instead of giving him his graduation certificate. In a good turn of events, his fight with Elmont's clique also inspired the commoners and the noble class to work hard. With Elcid, Leon starts his journey to the city of Blaine, where adventurers gather. About half a month and a long, tiring walk through the forest later, Leon can at last see Blaine in the distance. On Elcid's insistence, they had camped in the wild, trained with the holy sword until his limbs were about to fall off, and defended themselves from the attack of goblins. With the help of the Academy's student ID, Leon is able to get past the gate of the city without running into any issues. As they walk through the city streets, Elcid breaks it to him that Blaine is a thug in the village. Numerous such cities have existed since about 300 years ago. She points at the telltale signs, like the lack of security and the disorder in the city, and Leon realizes he still lacks much experience. Wanting to register as soon as possible, he starts towards the guild. Although becoming a mercenary works too, compared to being an adventurer, it doesn't have as much freedom to move around. Plus, he doesn't have any intentions of getting involved in the power struggles between the nobles. More importantly, if he wants to use the privileges of a hero, adventurers that take on the monster's subjugation requests would be the best. Since Elcid descended 1 year earlier than the Oracle stated, most of Elcid's authorities as a holy sword are still sealed. The owner of the holy sword possesses a body that recovers so fast that he's almost immortal. Through immense strengthening, he's able to deal fatal damage to demonic existences. He is also able to become stronger multiple times with his aura and holy energy. In order for someone who's lacking in aura like Leon to be able to use the holy sword to its full extent, he needs to work hard and become more powerful. Leon successfully registers himself as an adventurer and learns that he has to start at D rank, where he can take up real jobs and not just miscellaneous tasks. Plus, based on the recommendation letter, he should be able to go up to C rank quickly if he produces good results. B rank is one where he'll need to show that he can use his aura weapon. The core forces of the guild's A or S ranks will probably take a while to reach. Beyond the level of just circulating aura, an aura weapon is the level where someone is able to control aura outside of their body and make a sword that can split boulders and cut through steel, the true start of a superhuman. And to think that reaching that level only allows one to reach B rank. Leon can't believe an aura weapon can be a rank requirement. On the other hand, Elcid finds it impressive that the organization is more interesting than he thought it'd be. There are quite some humanoid races there, like werewolves, elves, and high elves. Elcid is excited they'd be working with races. They were busy fighting 300 years ago. In order to fully start as an adventurer, however, Leon needs to take up one commission without any reward in order to be acknowledged by the guild. Leon is fighting human-sized underground tunnel rats. His sword's techniques are strictly for one-on-one fights. In order to get past the rats, he has to keep cutting away at them. There's no better training than cutting away at all kinds of enemies, like ground or flying beasts. Although it's tiring, there's no escaping the situation, since he took up cleaning the sewers as his commission and has to suck it up now. There's a rat mysteriously standing in the shadows that has a horn. When Leon asks about him, Elcid explains that it's an evolved species that has either lived a long time as a monster or obtained some kind of special power after absorbing a ton of resources. These species are the same as hobgoblins, and the horn is proof of their special abilities. The bigger and more horns a rat has, the more dangerous their abilities are. However, since the ratman Leon's facing now has the ability of a curse, it's useless against the holy sword. Needless to say, he wipes them all out with great ease. As a proof of his victory, he brings the tails of all the rats he terminated back to the guild. They collectively weigh a grand total of 23 ki, which roughly means he hunted 230 ratmen, including around 4 evolved ones. In exchange for his collection, he is awarded 13 silver and 50 copper coins. As it turns out, ratmen horns are pretty expensive since they are in high demand, and Leon is the first one to have achieved this much on a first commission. And so he's registered as an official D-rank adventurer in the guild. The girl on the desk hands him a copper badge with a seal that symbolizes the free city of Blaine. She tells him that only B-rank adventurers and below get second priority when choosing to work in other branches. It's a measure to prevent people from only taking up requests that they like. The girl seems to have mistaken Leon for a holy knight, as he took a commission that doesn't pay well and is also tough. The holy knights were said to keep their identities secret before they were officially appointed and would go on a journey of helping others. Since the hero is a type of holy knight, she's not entirely wrong though. Leon wallows in that. Leon lets Elcid know that he is going to stay in Blaine until he reaches B rank, which Elcid tells him will take 100 days. Elcid wanted to take it slow while teaching him for half a year, but he figures it's not going to work. Even though it's for training purposes, Elcid still can't help but feel offended that his successor is cleaning up sewers to rise in the ranks. He considers it a disgrace and gives Leon quite a piece of his mind. Elcid announces that Leon has to get as strong as possible and defeat a dragon. Now that he's learned the basics of vision and footwork, Leon can increase his proficiency through more actual fights. One of the privileges of being a hero is that he can absorb the powers of the monsters he defeats, accumulate them, and convert them into aura. Leon knew that the elixirs and training methods of a renowned family are really effective in aura training, but the nobles and royals of the past concealed this truth so that only they would be able to make use of it. Since the main people who concealed that truth have died, only Elcid knows of it and is more inclined towards subjugating monsters. When Elcid reminds him again that he has to eventually fight dragons and other high-level monsters, Leon realizes that Elcid wasn't joking. Indignant at having been used to purify Leon when he came out of the sewer, Elcid explodes once again and reprimands him for not being serious. Later on, a much lighter note, Elcid explains that they need to go to the Titan mountain range in the future. It's the place where the giant king rules and where even dragons don't dare trespass. Elcid's body was left in the mountains, and he lost his memories, so he doesn't remember much. Hence, getting there in half a year is going to be their new goal. For now, though, in the guild, Leon has become famous for hunting ratmen and has been nicknamed Cat. Since ratmen are getting fewer in number, Leon's not making sufficient money anymore and wants to check out other commissions. The girl at the desk spreads out 4 documents for him, and Leon looks closely at the one that looks pretty old. Elcid says it's because it is unpopular and has never been renewed before. Hence, Leon signs up for that commission that calls for rock slime subjugation. Their habitat is found underground near the fortress because it eats rocks. If nobody gets rid of them, then the fortress wall's durability will be negatively affected. The complaint is from the defense captain Blaine, but when Leon goes to him, he refuses to have requested any such thing. Regardless, Leon carries on. While the underground is not as dirty as the sewers, it's very humid and the floor is slippery. If one doesn't use footwork technique, it'd be hard to maintain balance. He spots 3 slimes, and Elcid instructs him to use his vision and warns him not to take them lightly. Because if they were like any other normal slimes, other adventurers wouldn't have avoided them. Just then, as if on cue, a rock comes hurling towards him, and he barely dodges the attack. Rock slimes indeed. Leon's sword bounces off the rock slime monster, and he realizes why they are so named. Elcid explains that the main weakness of the slimes is their core. If you destroy the core, which is in the center, you'll be able to destroy the slime itself, no matter what kind of abilities it possesses. But there are countless rock fragments within the rock slime, like several layers of armor protecting the core. The rock slimes release a shower of rocks towards Leon, who expertly strikes them away using the holy sword, but it exhausts him. The monsters know he can't dodge all of their attacks, so they're aiming for his vital point. Elcid then asks Leon for an analysis of the attack just now using vision. Leon explains that the slimes fire the rock fragments from 5 meters away. They make an exit, and then there's a bit of time before it fires rocks again. If Leon could close the gap between them at that time, he could get in 1 or 2 attacks. All he needs to do is find a way to avoid the rock fragments in its body and cut the core. On second thought, Leon realizes he could use his visions to look out for the moment when the rock fragments inside its body are dispersed, then use the holy sword to pierce through the empty space. The space won't be easy to find since the rock fragments are constantly moving, but Leon considers this difficulty as an opportunity. El Cid then tells Leon that the moment the rock slime creates an opening to fire the rocks, the flow of its mucus will also stop for a moment. Armed with a strategy, Leon charges at the rock slimes and begins taking them down one by one. El Cid advises him to reduce the amount of pressure that he puts on the surface as he moves since they can detect their surroundings through vibration. Using footwork techniques, Leon is making progress until he slips on the moisture-ridden floor of the tunnel. However, Leon changes his stance and recovers quickly without falling before resuming his attacks to finish the rock slimes. When he's done, El Cid informs him that the recovery he'd just made was a level 2 footwork technique. Whether it's an ice floor or a boiling steel floor, being able to use the environment as part of his power is the main point of the footwork technique. While he did it by chance, Leon changed into a position where he opened his legs to lower his center of gravity at the end. By doing that, he threw away his standing position and was able to flexibly change towards whichever direction he wanted to head in. While El Cid thinks he's progressing well for this hands-on experience, Leon is surprised to learn that a standard of this difficulty only reaches up to level 2. El Cid then advises Leon to refrain from dodging the attacks so he can practice how to get hit, but take less damage, and also to not just thrust his sword. This is so that he doesn't get comfortable fighting in the same way, or things will only get tougher for him in the future. The captain of the guard admires Leon's hard work as he waits for him to come out of the underground tunnel where he's subjugating the rock slime monsters. Leon finally comes out with 2 full bags and declares that it was the final day. He has cleaned up the nearby areas of the fortress walls of these slimes. Since rock slimes breed much slower than rats, there shouldn't be any need for subjugation for them for the time being. After requesting that they update the Adventurers Guild about the commission being completed, Leon takes his leave. With all the power he's accumulated from rock slime subjugation, Leon is now ready to take the first step into learning Aura. El Cid is happy to note that due to the quick handling of the rock slimes, they are now 1 month ahead of schedule. Leon has now acquired the minimum power required to get started with Aura. Descendants of renowned families like the Lions would receive a baptism, where their circulatory systems would be opened from the moment they were born, and they'd establish the foundation of their aura with elixirs. This is the reason why the difference in social status would also mean a difference in abilities. If someone used baptism to unclog a circulatory system that's been blocked with impurities, people are usually unable to take the recoil, and they die. But Leon has been absorbing mana this whole time, and most importantly, he has the Holy Sword, which has the power to protect his circulatory system and heal his injuries at the same time. Nevertheless, Leon will have to endure excruciating pain, and if he loses consciousness, then the baptism will be a failure. Whether it succeeds or not will depend on Leon's willpower. El Cid then conjures up several swords of light that pierce Leon one after another, but he endures them. El Cid is impressed when Leon manages to take 10 swords together. As Leon's aura awakens, El Cid feels the presence of dangerous people within the city getting clearer. After the baptism, Leon is excited to feel the flow of energy within his body. It feels like he can do anything now, but El Cid tells him that he's mistaken. Meanwhile, the great King Rodrigo assures someone that he has made the right choice in appointing Leon as his successor. El Cid informs Leon that he has only unclogged the large vein, and if he wants to use aura properly, he'll also have to train his small vein. Thus, he still has a long way to go. El Cid then goes on to explain aura and its attributes to Leon. There are 5 common attributes that are mostly seen in humans: wood, water, fire, metal, and earth. But the attribute Leon has isn't one of these 5. It's the sun attribute, the same one that El Cid has. It's the highest level of attribute that represents brilliance. El Cid shows Leon his status window, which Leon is pleased to see is showing signs of his progress. Hence, El Cid thinks it's time he learns swordsmanship. Leon gets all fired up and wants to start right away, but El Cid needs to first inform him about their enemies that lie in this city. They are the hero's archenemies, the traitors, who are trying to fulfill a purpose by handing this world over to otherworldly beings. El Cid gives them the name Malice, meaning group of evil. However, there is no way Leon can face them right now. He needs to get stronger and fast. The enemies will likely lay low for the time being, but it's not like he has all the time in the world. They'll probably make their move in 2 months, at most. Subjugating monsters was nothing more than preparation to get stronger, but Malice is an enemy that a hero cannot avoid. From now on, Leon will have to throw himself into the mud, swirling with blood and animosity. The next day, at the headquarters of the Adventurers Guild, Leon gets promoted to C rank, which usually requires a separate promotion evaluation. But his subjugation of ratmen and rock slimes received very high evaluations, so it was omitted thanks to the letters of appreciation from the Lord and the guard captain. Elcid is pleased. If Leon is able to take on more requests thanks to the promotion, it'll become easier to search for Malice. The desk clerk then hands him some C-rank requests. There are a few that look good for training, but there aren't any that might be related to Malice. Leon then asks for requests related to the slums, or requests with bad rumors around that area. The slums of Blaine are a zone that lawbreakers from various countries have occupied. Thieves, informants, escaped convicts, smugglers, assassins and the like. Thus, clues about Malice are more likely to be found there. But there isn't a single request directly related to the slums, as it's a job for mercenaries and adventurers who don't involve themselves in human disputes. Leon can't become a mercenary with so many restrictions after coming this far, and if he starts digging up the slums without any cause, they'll start to become wary of him. The clerk then hands him a request for the subjugation of ornamental armor that turned into living armor in an abandoned mansion that is near the slums. This gives Leon the excuse he needs to go investigate in that area. No matter how powerful the forces in the slums are, there's no way they'd pick a fight with the Adventurers Guild, since they may have to face a high-ranking adventurer if they touch the guild the wrong way. The desk clerk, Rise, hands Leon the reward for Rock Slime's subjugation before Leon asks her the location of Blaine's church. If Rise thinks of Leon as a holy knight, as Elcid says, then he has an advantage. The holy knights on their penance cannot even request help from the church, but there is an exception if enemies of the church have appeared. In other words, heretics are those who condemn the goddess. Regardless of affiliation or faction, the church gathers their entire might to smite them. It is the only reason the Holy Iron Chain Knights, known for their ruthlessness, are dispatched. Rise tells Leon the location of the church, and he takes his leave. Rise rushes to report that an enemy of the church has appeared. Elcid applauds Leon's cunning plan. Once the report is made, the guild will make its own move. Leon could have shown Elcid to the church if he really had to, but he leaves that as a last resort. Elcid's seal hasn't been fully released, and he has to hone his skills more to call himself the owner of the Holy Sword to the church. On a different note, for their next mission, Elcid explains to Leon that living armor is a rare, natural phenomenon. The sets of armor can move using the power of magic or sorcery, or through someone's thoughts being imbued into the armor. They don't possess egos, and are nothing but scraps of metal with instructions to repel intruders left within them. The ones they have to face are made from miscellaneous iron plated with silver. The reason they have not yet been handled is the abnormally high regeneration speed of the armor. As they pass through the slums on their way to the mansion, Leon finds them much more bustling than he had imagined. He feels unpleasant, as if someone's following him, but Elcid tells him it's because of his aura sense. The sun's aura is very sensitive to ill will from the exterior. The people are checking him out since they think he's an easy target due to his age. Their ill intent stimulated his aura, but it's nothing to be afraid of as most of it is coming from small fry. Inside the mansion, Leon uses the holy sword to light his way as a set of armor immediately accosts him. The suit of armor is carrying a halberd, which can be a dangerous weapon if handled by an actual wielder. When the armor attacks, Leon easily counters it because no matter how powerful the halberd is, there's no way an empty 20 to 30 kilogram suit of armor can overpower him with it. Swinging the holy sword with swift movements, Leon cuts up the armor into pieces, easily defeating it. Elcid is impressed with his use of Axle, but Leon can barely use it for a few seconds. Contrary to what they had been expecting, the armor does not regenerate. Elcid thinks the report they read might have been false, but a false report is a Class 2 crime in the guild. If someone were to die due to the false report, the guild would put a bounty on the reporter's head. No one would take such a risk to get away from a disciplinary mission. Something seems off. No matter how annoying living armors are as opponents, a well-constructed party could take them on without any problems. Just then, a whole group of armored warriors makes its way towards Leon. Upon Leon's request, El Cid makes the holy sword brighter, which makes the suits of armor scream in pain. They then come after Leon, attacking him from all sides. Their movements are easy to read yet perfect. However, that would only be a problem for Leon if they were actual knights, and he quickly starts taking them down using precise slashes of his sword. El Cid interrupts to tell him that these things are not living armors. She advises Leon to use his vision, with which he sees a reddish-black smoke occupying the inside of the armor. El Cid explains that the smoke is a kind of evil energy that devours your vitality as soon as it touches your body. Leon's son Aura will be able to resist it, but he should still be careful. The fact that the armor felt pain from the holy sword's light means they are actually evil spirits. They are created by an unrestful spirit indwelling armor, and their voidness devolves into hatred for the living. That's why the one Leon cut in the beginning couldn't regenerate. The only ways to subjugate the phantom armor are to chase out the spirit with powerful magic, break the connection between the spirit and armor using the power of the aura, or purify them with holy power. Fortunately, Leon possesses the holy sword, the peak of holy weapons. But there are a bit too many of them, so it would be better for Leon to retreat for now and come back during the day. Due to their overflowing number, El Cid doesn't think they were created by coincidence. This means hundreds or thousands of spirits have flown into the mansion. Leon is shocked to learn that many people are dying in the city. An evil spirit's level of activity isn't that great. They can't travel long distances or remain in this world for a long time. They can't even travel to a different district in the same city. There's nowhere else for them but the slums, a place estranged from law and order. As someone who still lacks experience as a hero, this isn't something that Leon can handle at the moment. Even the final card he has, to make the church move by using the holy sword, is useless if he doesn't figure out the secret organization's objective and identity. Leon finally decides to get rid of the option to come back in the morning. At this moment, battling against stronger opponents in a dark environment will become fodder for his growth, so he swings his sword at the suits of armor, breaking them up into pieces. By the time the sun comes up, they have all been more or less taken care of. The fight has taught Leon how to go against multiple opponents while being surrounded by his vision. But the slums are much more dangerous than the sewers and the underground tunnels. If Leon continues to rely solely on his vision, he may fall into a trap that he cannot escape. Meanwhile, Bastard, the most powerful gang in Blaine, convenes for a meeting headed by a man named Khan. His subordinates give him reports about the latest goings-on in the city and their progress on the orders he has given them. When one of the men questions his decision to back off of the people who dumped the remains of 30 people in the sewers, he barely flicks his fist and kills the man. Khan orders his men to stay away from these people because forming a relationship with them could be detrimental to themselves. It'll be all over for them if the church decides to take direct action. The church's holy Iron Chain Knights will chase them to the ends of the continent, just for exchanging a single gold coin with them. In another news, the men inform Khan about an adventurer who frequently visits the abandoned mansion in the district. He calls him Sweeper because he takes in shunned requests. Khan's interest is piqued, and he believes he can make use of him. On the other hand, Leon practices using aura. When he expresses that he doesn't feel like he's grown at all, El Cid shows him his status window. Leon is surprised to see that his aura has grown from initial grade to a low grade. When Leon asks about the 7-star sword, it makes El Cid furious, for Leon should already know that if he has a conscience. Basically, the 7-star sword, also known as the Grand Chariot, is the arcane swordsmanship that Roderick invented in his early days. It's said that you can call yourself a master only once you've been able to consecutively use all 7 forms of arcane swordsmanship. Before facing Malice, Leon intends to learn at least one of those forms. By adding the 7-star sword to the Holy Sword, he'd be able to get the upper hand on his opponents, but only if they weren't a master rank. Currently, since it's impossible for Leon to overpower anyone in the slum, even in the next 2 months, he needs a trump card to use in emergencies. Knowing how to manifest an aura weapon is not enough if he can't use it properly, and Leon knows that, so he's determined to start training right away. However, Elxid isn't exactly enthused and announces that the training for the day has come to an end. Surprised when Leon asks why that is, Elxid turns to look outside the window at the uninvited guests they seem to have waiting at their door. Leon goes down to meet them. One of the men comes forward and starts talking. They have orders from above and are members of a gang called the Bastards. It is led by a man called Khan, who is also the leader of the people, dividing the slums into 3. The men want Leon to come with them to their boss, who readily agrees, for this is his chance to get into the heart of the slums. Leon suspects Khan wants to entrust him with a job he can't request from the guild. The base of the gang is cluttered and filthy, with the walls stained with dried blood and deliberately left unclean in order to create an atmosphere of dread and fear. From the shadows behind him, a towering man speaks all of a sudden. On instinct, Leon unsheathes his sword, but the man has already hurled a huge fist into his face. Unable to move, it hits him in the nose, and blood immediately sputters out. Khan decides that the boy has guts. As Leon recognizes the guy as Khan, Khan offers to give him what he wants if he takes on his request. And what exactly is it that he wants? Leon asks him, to which Khan gives a sinister grin. He has had a background check done on Leon. Khan knows Leon dropped out of the Royal Academy, left behind the nobles with his hard work, registered himself with Blaine's Adventurers Guild, and took only shunned requests to get himself known to the big guns of the city. However, Khan is wrong about one thing. He is of the opinion, wrongly so, that fame is Leon's goal, and Leon sees no reason to correct him, because Khan was nothing but a means to an end. The slums run on the idea of survival of the fittest. Many people came here to take charge of the seats of power 3 to 4 months ago. Khan only made a move to stop them after they had invaded the 23rd and 25th districts and killed around 200 people in one day. Leon realizes with a jolt that malice might be associated with the abandoned mansion and the phantom armor. Meanwhile, Khan tells him that there are 3 people who share the rights to the slums. One of them is Simon, a loan shark that people call the Gold Pig. The other is an unknown assassin whose face no one has ever seen. He's called the Coffin Keeper. And of course, the last one is Khan himself, who claims to be at the top of the ladder. The 23rd and 25th districts are Simon's territory, and with over 200 casualties and assets lost, he's understandably rather furious. To defeat the trespassers wanting to take over, Simon hired mercenaries from D rank to B rank. Alas, all of them were killed. After listening to this, Leon raises valid concerns. If these forces are powerful enough to put to death such a large number of mercenaries, the Empire should be concerned as well, because no matter how lawless the slums are, the situation crosses the line by far too much. If Khan's story is to be taken into account, the huge number of phantom armors in that abandoned mansion makes sense. Simon is scared of the forces and refuses to make any sort of move. The Coffin Keeper is going to keep watching the situation, and Khan's underlings are also trying their best to avoid an all-out war, and that's where Leon comes in. From what he's told, Leon doesn't think Khan is trying to attract a contract killing from him. Instead, Khan is interested in attracting the guild through Leon. In answer to the question of how the guild could be moved into action, Khan shows him a document with evidence of the people in the slums who are being sacrificed by malice. They were in thousands in numbers. Khan can't just submit the document to the guild though, because the higher-ups in the guild are more thick-headed than Leon thinks. They are never going to believe something that comes from a shady source, and that's why Khan needs Leon. He'd make him proof. The question is Leon up for such a dangerous task that might get him killed? Although it is not easy to gather information in the slums, Leon can save hundreds of lives if he takes up this request. To aid him on his mission, Khan gives him a dagger with his mark on it, which, if he shows to anyone who picks a fight with him, they won't try to subsequently attack Leon, other than the Coffin Keeper. Leon tells Khan that the dagger is giving him the creeps and mercilessly chucks it away. After a brief display of temper, Khan then hands him a pouch of magic scrolls that he has the liberty to either use or sell. It can be considered an advance payment. Once back at his place, Leon asks Elcid if he picked up anything useful from the documents, to which Elcid says that more research has to be done. Considering how Malice does things, if something doesn't go according to plan, the chances are high that doing something leads to disaster. Given the danger of entering a place where 500 mercenaries were slaughtered and a mission demanding a first-rate assassin or ranger, Leon comes to the conclusion that he'd need a helper. Someone who can't be bought, who can be trusted with his protection, and lastly, someone who has no tolerance for malice at all. There's only one place they can find such a person, and that is the 13th building in the Primer District. They reach the Holy Church, located in an underprivileged area. Leon knocks at the door, wanting to meet the bishop, and as he does so, the aura in his body starts reacting to the aura of the person on the other side of the door. The door opens, and an elf clad in golden robes emerges. He introduces himself as Cesare, the bishop of the branch. He has heard of Leon too, as the guy who subjugated the underground monsters in the sewers, as well as the ones in the castle walls. Cesare expresses his gratitude for the fact that the water quality since then has gotten better, and people don't suffer from stomach aches as much anymore. Formalities done with, the bishop comes to the point and asks him what brought Leon here. Leon slides the documents towards him on the desk. Once Cesar has gone through them, he admits that the situation demands immediate action from the church. However, the source of the information is indeed a problem. It will be deemed suspicious when forwarded to the central parish, which will request a credible person to reinvestigate. If that is done though, a lot of time is going to be wasted. That's why, as Leon lets on, he's looking for someone to help him investigate the 23rd and 25th districts and hopes the bishop guides him to the right person. Although there are a few in the church who have learned healing and support arts, none can fight, so they won't be much use on a mission like this. Just when Leon looks disappointed, in a surprising turn of events, Cesare proceeds to offer his own services and agrees to join him on the mission himself. The elf produces a brilliant ball of aura fire, a phenomenon of aura that's reached the density threshold, seeping out and burning the atmosphere around it, a technique that can rip Mithril to shreds. From how quickly he manifested that, Elcid understands that he must have mastered it through countless battles. Leon feels humbled and in awe of the bishop's presence, as he reveals he used to be a member of the Holy Iron Chain Knights. 50 years ago, he leaves the room to fetch the weapon he used in those days, and Leon wonders what it might be. He expects a cool bow befitting an elf of the forest tribe, but the elf comes back with a chain mace. He throws it at a boulder, immediately shattering it, demonstrating the weapon's strength. At night, Leon walks through the streets of the slums, with Caesar following close behind, in a disguise that helps fit him into the environment. Leon notices that he can sense his presence with an aura sense, but not with any of his other physical senses. Elcid explains that it's a type of aura skill that erases your presence using aura. It's a difficult skill to use while moving, but he seems to be quite proficient at it, as Leon notices that it makes him seem invisible. When Leon questions being able to sense Caesar using aura sense, Elcid explains this is because of his aura attribute. From how Leon is responding to his aura as a sun attribute, his attribute must be moon. Leon can sense the elf's presence because his complementary attribute makes his stealth sloppy before him, since he possesses a sun aura. As they reach the 23rd district, with the help of the gangster's dagger, they easily make their way past all the gang members they meet. Caesar praises Leon's usefulness and looks forward to taking down a few heretics. Since it is dangerous to infiltrate above ground, they use the sewer path that Khan told Leon about to make their way into Malice's territory. From a little distance, they hear voices from above talking regarding making about 70 human sacrifices per day and difficulties they face in disposing them off. Leon immediately gets furious, but before he can act, the elf has already ambushed the enemy. He swings the mace around and takes down several men in masks in one strike, but finds his attack blocked by one of them using external armor. As the man is making threats against them, his head gets slashed off his shoulders without a warning. Leon chops off the head of one of the heretics, while the elf takes care of the rest with ease. When Leon questions the safety of using the holy sword disguised as one of the blades the heretics were using, Elcid assures him she used a unique spell and everything's going according to plan. It can't be called a successful mission, but Leon is still happy they were able to figure out the true nature of the enemy. There's no better proof than the fact that they were using external techniques prohibited by the church. Leon and Caesar continue their search, and, to their horror, find gruesome skulls and used surgical instruments. As Leon is reeling with disgust, Elcid advises him to endure it because this is a tragedy a hero must remember. One who will bring a better tomorrow, that is, the definition and duty of a true hero, as well as the reason Leon must keep fighting until the end. Leon takes a deep breath and composes himself in seconds, which impresses Caesar. He then discusses with the elf that the places they've passed through so far were little more than spaces used for corpse disposal, and this is the actual facility. Enemies from here on out are at least in double digits. They may get into huge trouble if they infiltrate blindly. Leon didn't want to use it if possible, but needs must. So he pulls out a magic scroll that temporarily grants a see-through ability to its caster. With its power, Leon can see everyone in the vicinity, but as it fades, he coughs up blood. Brushing aside Caesar's concern, he explains that the underground facility is not all that wide and there are 24 people that can be regarded as enemy. There's a room in the center he can't see through, and its entrance is on the east. They wonder if that place is the key or a trap. It's possible this place is an empty hull where corpses are buried, and the real deal is in the 25th district. Leon, however, wants to move on only after absolutely confirming it, since the security might not be as lax the next time they come. Caesar agrees, and they move forward with their infiltration. They take down masked heretics as they go, and finally come across the wall. Leon couldn't see through. There are unknown letters written in dark red light on the wall that look like blood flowing in an open wound. Caesar asks Leon to step aside as he prepares to break down the wall with the mace. Caesar's mace bounces off the wall instead of breaking it down. Elcid explains that it's a door made out of extra-dimensional matter, a substance based on principles that don't exist in this world. It nullifies physical interference, and since Leon couldn't see through it with the scroll's power, magic doesn't work on it either. Caesar then extends his hand and recites an incantation of the sacred arts. It is the natural principle and power of this world that can only be realized through the accumulation of sincere faith and good-natured karma. The door breaks a little under Caesar's efforts, but still doesn't open. Elcid then recommends using their only remaining option, the holy sword. As Caesar watches, Leon slashes at the sturdy piece of wall with his disguised sword and makes it immediately disappear in a flash of light, since it wasn't supposed to exist in this world after all. They don't sense anything beyond the door, and it's too dark to see anything, but Leon can feel the unmistakable stench of blood. Caesar holds up a ball of light, which reveals to them a huge, horrifying blob of flesh that appears to be alive. Elcid explains that they shave flesh and extract blood from intelligent species and process them into lumps of meat with the essence of vitality infused in them, and based on how much they've gathered, their goal is clear: a heretical art that summons a monster using an enormous number of sacrifices as bait. Because it's been known to devour an entire city, the calamity has been named City Eater. It requires a large amount of time and work to prepare, but it can't be stopped once it starts. Since such a ritual would obviously draw attention, it fails 99 times out of 100. But the problem is that a catastrophe occurs if it succeeds even once, and Elcid believes that the heretics have already gathered about 90% of the amount needed. They will not have anything left to do but start the ritual. They will likely start the ritual as soon as Leon tries to evacuate the citizens. Elcid then recommends a straightforward tactic. They'll gather all the forces in the city to conquer the 25th district. A heretic art like the City Eater will likely require a large-scale ritual, so Elcid is sure it'll be resolved if they pummel them all before then. With the almighty holy sword on their side, they'll shave out their forces through an all-out war, and after that, they'll immediately annihilate the small number of exhausted elites. As long as they aren't aware of the holy sword's existence, they'll fall prey to a checkmate they can never escape from. Leon is ready to take the gamble. It seems they have made their presence known, so they've got to leave. Although they have not yet made a run, the heretics are on their tails. However, when they notice the monster that was blown apart by Caesar before they ran, they decide to shut down the place and drop the pursuit. It was no use continuing with their ritual in a place that had been exposed. When Leon and Caesar are sure they're not being followed, they stop in a deserted alley and take a breather. Caesar thinks that any reinforcements they call from the church will come too late. He seems to have run out of ideas and asks Leon if he has a plan, and Leon sure has. In order to initiate the plan, Elcid presented, Leon needs someone with enough speaking power. Therefore, in a quick decision, he brandishes the holy sword out in front of Caesar, even though it was initially supposed to be his last resort. But the circumstances are dire. Since information about the city, Ita would be highly classified even in the church. Leon will pretend it was a deduction to avoid suspicion. As for a way to nullify the barrier, if he excludes the word holy sword, there's no other way but to make an excuse that the sun's aura is more effective against heretical arts than one thinks. Even in the church, the sun aura is famous as one that must be prioritized in recruitment. It's so rare that Caesar has never seen anyone else possess it but Leon, and Caesar might finally know the reason for that. The plan is to mobilize the guild and the army and drive them into a corner so a small number of elites can infiltrate and strike them. That said, they have two prerequisites: mobilizing the army and the guild, and forming a team that will infiltrate their base. The former is simple, since Caesar can speak out against the cult, but the problem is that they need people who can face the elites of the heretical arts. They need people who are at least A rank by guild standards. Leon proposes recruiting men from the slums, namely Khan and Coffin Keeper, but for that, Caesar has to be the one to convince them to help the church. They arrive at the guild the next morning and request full support from them in the name of the Holy Iron Chain. They meet with the guild master of the Blaine branch, Bernard, who informs them that among the 4 A ranks currently active in Blaine, only one is available, as the rest are in the middle of their respective missions. Trusting Bernard to convince the said adventurer, Leon and Caesar head to the slums next. The exchange between Khan and Caesar goes as disastrously as one could expect. However, in the end, Khan relents, probably because of the threat that Caesar delivers rather convincingly about throwing his name on the heretics list. They sent an emergency request to all guild members of C rank, and around 1,500 of them showed up, mercenaries included. And that's because they were able to persuade the Lord of Blaine when they showed him the piece of evidence they had collected. The garrison has already surrounded the 25th district. Close combat will be reserved for the adventurers and mercenaries, while the troops lacking in individual strength will provide support from the rear with long-range attacks. It's a wise decision. They'd only become sacrifices to the heretical arts if they haphazardly charged in. Rather than providing strength to the enemies, it's better to inconvenience them, albeit passively. Lord Blaine has sent the senior knight of the Blaine Count family, Conrad. He's been known for his distinguished military exploits since his days as a knight. Khan is already there with them, and after Conrad comes the Coffin Keeper. The last one to arrive is the adventurer hired by the guild, a woman named Karen. With her included, it sure is an interesting group, with 2 adventurers, 1 gangster, a retired Holy Iron Chain knight, a senior knight of Count Blaine, and an assassin. Although it's understandable to not expect full-scale agreements between the members, they sure are all united in one cause, and so they attack. The heretics are ambushed from all directions. They call on their headquarters for help and decide to unleash the abomination. When the archer's arrows fail to be of any use against the monster, the mercenaries step in. Although they're handling the situation impressively, Abomination is not an easy monster to face, and it'll last several dozen minutes even if they move according to plan. The ones on the front line are going to hide in their shells when they realize they're at a disadvantage. Out of nowhere then, a tornado shapes upward in the sky, moving rapidly towards Leon and the others. Conrad steps forward, tackling it with his aura fire, but only ends up making it into a fire tornado. Khan charges next at the fire tornado with his fist, but, of course, to no avail. Caesari's sacred art might break apart the tornado barrier, but he should probably save as much of it as possible in preparation for what is likely to happen inside the base. Leon is the one to step in with his holy sword. He asks Elcid if she's saved up enough power, and Elcid hasn't only saved up, she's overflowing with sheer energy, all thanks to the heretics Leon killed earlier. It seems that absorbing the power of a single heretic is more effective than 1,000 monsters. And so Leon unsheathes the sword and lunges towards the tornado, destroying it in a single swipe. Everyone jumps down the hole that resulted in the ground and finds themselves in a long hallway of the base. Karen finds an entrance on the floor leading somewhere downstairs. However, before Karen can go, Caesare wants to know if she can sense traps from up here. The guildmaster had said Karen was supposed to be a rogue, so she should be able to do that. But she can't scout for possible dangers in the area until she enters it directly because the space downstairs seems different from what is upstairs. Therefore, without wasting any more time, they head down the stair. But they have only gone so far when Leon is pulled by an invisible force. He drops through space and lands in a completely different hallway, separated from others. Elcid recognizes the labyrinthine formation in action. It's a classic technique to distort and expand space to increase the area of a place. The others are separated from each other in a similar way, and if they're lucky, they will run into them eventually. No sooner had Elcid said it than Karen appeared behind them, with the coffin keeper hiding in her shadows. When she tells him off, he disappears into the wall, leaving her alone with Leon. The two of them moved forward, finding their way around. Leon is following Karen, for she's said to have tracking skills superior to those of the elves of the forest, which might be because of her aura attribute. Even though it is dark in the labyrinth, it seems to be working to their advantage. There are two heretics on the other side. Leon's aura sense tells him they're more powerful than the ones in the 23rd district, and he probably won't be able to defeat them, even with the holy sword. Karen, on the other hand, doesn't hesitate and uses her green aura to plant her feet against the wall, lowering into a crouching position. From how adept she seems at doing that, it's obvious she went through harsh training. Leon has to focus on his footwork even more if he wants to keep up with her speed. Crawling on the wall, she reaches the ceiling and takes the heretics unawares from upside down. The tentacled heretic is focused on deflecting her daggers and doesn't see the lasso she throws at his feet, while Coffin Keeper appears out of thin air and beheads the wolf-faced heretic. And Leon, on the other hand, unfortunately, is left to deal with the strongest of them all. He uses both his vision and the power of his aura at their maximum level, similar to the style of rock slime. His opponents fire needles from their bodies. Leon dodges the needles, and using the holy sword, slices the heretic in half. Without vision and the sword, he admits he would have been pretty useless. However, Karen is all praise, and while she drones on about his competency, Leon suddenly notices that the sword traces the cross-section and the depth of the injuries on the tentacled and wolf-faced heretics look similar despite being killed by different people. He's definitely onto something that Elcid already knows. Leon asks Elcid to show him Karen's status window. Once it comes up, Leon's eyes dart to the title and his jaw drops, for she's none other than the Coffin Keeper. By day, she's Karen, the adventurer for the guild, and by night, she's an assassin and one of the three evils of the slums. She sure is dangerous, Leon admits, while gulping. It doesn't look like Khan and the guild master know about Karen's identity, according to Leon. And if she's also deceiving Caesare, then she won't be able to get away with it, for he's the bishop of the Holy Church. Leon might be the only one who has cracked it so far, and he's got to be careful not to let her know that. For if she finds out, she will go to any extreme to keep her identity a secret. As he's making these deductions in his head, another enemy attacks. It's a huge dog with dripping saliva that is burning holes in the ground like molten lava. If it's a monster summoned by heretical arts, it'll have regenerative abilities, so simply throwing daggers won't do much. They can avoid it and go another way, but there's no guarantee that there won't be monsters there too. Left with no choice but to fight it, Leon wonders if the heretics are simply buying more time to activate the City Eater by sending monsters their way and keeping them busy. Making sure he has the Coffin Keeper's cooperation, Leon charges at the dog with his sword, but his blow is too shallow. He won't be able to dodge the dog's lightning attack again, so he activates his vision, looking for an opening to attack. Just then, Karen comes to his aid, and in a quick decision to trust her on this, the two of them lunge at the beast together. Karen throws her daggers, and Leon swings his sword, but once again his blow is shallow and can't inflict enough damage. Before he can start stressing about it, though, the coffin keeper attacks the rear of the dog and freezes its movements. Effortlessly, he finishes it off, rendering it unable to even regenerate itself because the attack was so destructive. Leon is beyond impressed. Coffin Keeper proved that he's a true assassin indeed. For an improvised team, they did a pretty good job. Karen goes on about the Coffin Keeper's ultimate move, and Leon could only stare because she's basically praising herself. Without stopping for long, they head onward, as they haven't gotten much time before the heretics activate the City Eater. On their way, they find more heretics lurking around the corner and have to stop to go over their options, because this time there are 8 of them. It's a gamble to deal with them by themselves, so they either wait for Caesarea and the others to come find them or go to do that themselves. Just then, before anything more can be said or done, the ground shakes under their feet. It was a shockwave caused by 2 enormous powers clashing. When 4 of the 8 heretics run towards the sounds, Leon explores their options once again. Either they go help their comrades or fight their way past the remaining heretics. Leon votes for the former, and Karen agrees. She presses her ear against the floor to hear the exact direction of the sounds and then starts that way, instructing him to follow. Before they can go any further, though, a long, stretching branch shoots forwards, with Conrad stuck to it, his body pierced. Leon immediately rushes forward to deal with the heretic who took Conrad down, while 2 others take on Karen. Chanting something in a foreign language, the heretic spreads blue fog around Leon that will turn him to dust on the slightest touch. It's called Wandering Fury. Elcid explains that heretical artists are divided into 2 categories. The ones who activate heretical arts on their bodies, like the Needles guy, called mutants, and the ones who summon extra dimensional life forms or principles, called summoners. The one Leon is facing right now is from the latter group. The summoner thinks Leon's sword can't work on an astral body, but Leon proves him wrong by cutting the blue ring with the holy sword. Furious, the heretic attempts to attack again and starts chanting, but Leon doesn't give him the chance to conjure up another magical thing and swings his sword in a clean swipe, taking the heretic down in an instant. The masked heretic is shocked when the wound from Leon's attack doesn't regenerate before finally succumbing to his death. Karen has taken down her share of the enemy as well, so the 2 of them rush to check up on Sir Conrad. Conrad, badly injured and bleeding, tells them to go on and assures them he'll catch up soon. But Karen sees through his lie. If an aura user of his level can't stop the bleeding, it means the condition is serious. Conrad admits that he only has about an hour left to live, which immediately makes Leon wonder if they can clean up malice from within the city in that little time. And even if they do, will he still be in a condition to be treated once the battle is over? Throwing caution to the wind, Leon uses the Holy Sword to activate a sacred healing art with the accumulated power to lessen Conrad's wound. A golden light surrounds it as Leon recites the healing incantation, leaving Karen surprised at the use of bishop-level sacred art. The wound slowly disappears, leaving only a scar. Sir Conrad is grateful and impressed, and he asks him if he's a cardinal candidate of the Holy Church. He then proceeds to make a promise to keep Leon's secret until he is ordained. Karen hands Conrad a potion before she and Leon head back to where they were going. Once they're alone, Karen corners Leon against a wall and asks if what Conrad assumed was correct, but he assures her that he's not a cardinal candidate. She then questions whether he's an apprentice Holy Iron Chain Knight, but Leon turns around and refuses to answer. She wonders aloud if all the people of the church are this defensive as she strikes a pose, but Leon catches her attempts at a honey trap and doesn't fall for it. He then redirects their conversation towards whether they should look for the others or go with just the 2 of them. Karen brushes off his worry, and when he's confused, she tells him he'll see when they arrive. Sure enough, they round a corner and run into the rest of their crew. They inform him about Sir Conrad's injuries, after which Caesarea decides it'd be best for the 5 of them to proceed without him. He lays out their next course of action. Caesare will be at the vanguard since he possesses resistance to heretical arts. Khan and Karen will take the middle, and Leon will bring the rear of the party as their trump card. Khan questions the role of the coffin keeper in their party, and Leon convinces them to leave him alone, as he was quite helpful during his time with them. Karen enthusiastically agrees. The group then sets off to resume their mission. They soon encounter a blue ring of magic that looks like a space made using heretical arts. Caesare enters the space first, and the rest follow his lead. They find themselves in an unnervingly pitch black corridor. Walking through it feels like drowning in a sticky swamp. When they come out, they are surrounded by enemies who have been waiting for them. Caesare notices the symbol on the leader's forehead and is shocked to realize that he is an evangelist. Leon inquires about it, and Elcid explains that even malice has a hierarchy. Devotees who only use heretical arts passed down to them. Congregants who explore heretical arts of their own accord and are encroached upon by them. And evangelists who spread those heretical arts and are treated as executives. In terms of the Holy Church's ranks, they are at least bishop level. The evangelist rejoices in the success of his plan, and all the sacrifices finally coming to earth, but Khan questions it as nothing seems to be happening yet. The evangelist assures him that the undertaking has already begun. Leon is afraid that everything is over, but Elcid tells him that the city eater is akin to fishing. The essence of life is used as bait to lure out an extra-dimensional monster. In short, they still have time until that thing finds the bait and bites. There could be 1 hour left, or it could be summoned in seconds. It ultimately comes down to a battle against time. Leon then prompts Caesare to hold up a hand and produce a moon that emits a bright flash of light using a compound technique of sacred arts and aura. It's nowhere near as effective as the sun, but it can at least restrict the summoning of heretical arts. The light affects the heretics, and they start to feel choked. Their group takes their chance and attacks, swiftly taking down all the heretics except the evangelist, who hasn't stepped into the battle yet. Leon understands that that means the place he's protecting is the core of the ritual. They have to destroy the altar while the enemy can't use heretical arts. The evangelist, however, reveals that his heretical arts are still active by opening up portals that summon countless monsters to the battle. Elcid explains that summoning heretical arts is indeed blocked, so he created chimeras with incomplete heretical arts. They will self-destruct soon enough since they are incomplete, but they buy the heretics a bit more time to activate the ritual. Leon and his companions start going after the chimeras, but find that their attacks don't have much effect on them. Caesar realizes it's going to end up being a battle of attrition at this rate, and they will be in greater danger the longer this goes on. Leon understands the need to get through this situation as quickly as possible, but he mustn't use the full power of the Holy Sword. Elcid tells him that if the enemy is made aware of the hero's existence, they'll do whatever it takes to grab him by the ankles, even at the expense of their lives. This situation can only be turned around by catching them off guard. Just as Leon is preparing for his final attack, there's a surge of energy indicating the completion of the ritual that freezes everyone in their tracks. The evangelist raises his hands in reverence and excitement as the ground opens up for the city eater. Overwhelmed with fear, Leon asks Elcid if he can use the full power of the Holy Sword yet, but she refuses. Instead, Elcid tells him they'll use a sacred art and half the power accumulated to get out of this situation. It will be difficult to make it work, but Elcid has an idea thanks to the moon Caesare created. Both the sun and the moon are required to fully reproduce the symbol of the goddess, and they just happen to have people who possess sun and moon auras. Elcid then conjures up the scripture of the goddess's first verse and asks Leon to read it. The rest of his group looks on in awe as a sphere resembling the sun is created and joins Caesar's moon. The two spheres release a brilliant golden light that produces a space called Sanctuary that weakens the chimeras. Sanctuary is the perfect counter to heretical arts, as it rejects all extra-dimensional creatures and principles. Their group then takes their chance as the monsters are weakened and resumes their attack. They easily take down the chimeras, which angers the evangelist. He snaps his fingers and extracts the hearts of his devotees and congregants to transform himself into a huge, devil-like monster. Elcid warns Leon that the effect of a sanctuary activated at his level won't last very long. If the evangelist is that powerful inside the sanctuary, they will be no match for him at all once it disappears. Before Leon can react, his teammates rush forward to attack the monster. However, all their attacks have been in vain. The evangelist then retaliates, easily throwing off all his opponents due to his towering size, overwhelming attack power, regenerative capabilities, and defense. Leon wonders if the only method of attack that will work on him is the full power of the Holy Sword. If he isn't able to kill him in one strike, they'll lose the last option. They have to stop him. The evangelist-turned monster is overflowing with power, while Leon's companions lie severely injured. Leon needs a way to defeat him in a single strike. But is that even possible? As Karen recovers enough to stand up, Leon is reminded of her status window that showed her ability to shadow walk. A plan forms in his mind, and he asks Karen for help. He will go around behind the monster and destroy the altar to stop the ritual. This will require leaping through space itself, which is what Karen's coffin keeper can help with. Leon reveals that he knows about Karen's identity to better convince her to help him. She is shocked, but eventually agrees to help. As Khan and the bishop recover their strength, Karen takes Leon close to the monster before handing him over to the coffin keeper. Shadow walking is a technique that leaps through space, but since long-range movement is difficult, even for high-ranking mages, it only goes as far as what's necessary for assassination. But, as he'd thought, it's more than enough to take him behind the monster. Leon now stands in front of the altar, the heart of the City Eater ritual. In the middle of it is a glowing red sphere, which Leon recognizes as the essence of life. It's the culmination of the sacrifice of over 10,000 lives. Leon finds it unforgivable and raises his sword, but before he can strike, the monster with spider-like legs pierces his shoulder. Everyone looks on worriedly as the evangelist lifts up Leon and tells them to give up. Khan and Caesar rush to rescue him, but the monster assures them they'll share the same fate soon enough. Leon is bleeding profusely and is barely alive. He can see Elcid screaming something at him, but he can't hear it. He remembers his promise to go to the Titan Mountains with Elcid, and as his life slips away, he feels regret at not being able to keep that promise. Suddenly, the words of Lion echo in his head. He believed Leon was the kind of person who would keep any promise he made, no matter what. Leon's eyes start to glow as he regains his resolve and determination. Leon cuts out the monster's leg from his shoulder and falls to the ground. After struggling a bit, he finally stands tall, holding his sword aloft. He knows he has no chance of winning, but it's a hero's destiny to look toward victory. That is what he was taught by his master. Leon resolves to take down the enemy and save everyone as a hero. The evangelist admires Leon's tenacity before sending a torrent of attacks toward him. Elcid realizes that she has no choice left as the spirit of the great king Rodrigo shows up behind Leon. He commends him for trying his best and asks Leon to take a good look before the king fuses his spirit with that of his disciple. Together, they activate the 7-star sword technique and the grand chariot, Merak. Before the monster can see him move, Leon is already behind him, emitting his golden aura. The monster's head gets sliced off his shoulders, and, much to his shock, it resists regenerating. Leon, with orange eyes and a golden symbol on his forehead, mocks the monster, which makes him more furious. Rodrigo warns Leon that, because of his injury, his body may not survive a second attack, but Leon still wants to try. So he activates the Grand Chariot Dub and slices the monster's body in half. As the power of his heretical arts starts scattering, the monster threatens to take the rest of them down with him. Rodrigo knew this would happen, so he held back a bit, but now he's ready to blow the monster to bits. He advises Leon not to miss a single moment. The true essence of the 7-star sword is in its links. Leon is still too inexperienced to handle even one of them properly. But as long as he unloads the recoil of the technique onto the holy sword, it'll become a one-off ultimate attack. Rodrigo then performs the Grand Chariot, the pointer cross, and, in lightning-quick movements, destroys the essence of life. The resulting chaos makes the monster fall into the waiting mouth of the City Eater before the hole in the ground closes up and buries it away. Elcid exits Leon's body and explains that the City Eater seems to have settled for the small one after the essence was destroyed. Leon and Elcid express relief at having finally escaped the extra-dimensional creature. Just then, Leon collapses with exhaustion, and Caesar rushes to his side to heal him. Chiron congratulates Leon on successfully defeating the monster and shutting down the ritual, which makes Khan ask how he did it. But Leon is ready to pass out and leaves himself in Cesare's hands. Elcid silently praises Leon for a job well done. The space around them starts to shake as if it's about to collapse, likely because the creator of the space is dead. They rush to leave the building, remembering just in time to get Sir Conrad. Meanwhile, the spirit of the great King Rodrigo converses with another being, telling them they should have helped Leon if they were watching. They must have mentioned the Saintess in response because Rodrigo gets skeptical about them prioritizing the Saintess over Leon. He finally concedes that danger like this is common for a hero and can be considered a good experience. He then agrees about the penalty Leon might have to face since the Holy Sword was used by force in a sealed state. But he's sure Leon will be fine eventually and reach B rank if he sticks to his training. He needs to be able to at least hold his own before they go to the Titan range. At the headquarters of the guild, Leon wakes up abruptly, wondering where he is. As soon as he sits up, he is struck with sharp pain that leaves him convulsing in his bed. His memories of the previous day rush back and he recognizes the recovery room of the guild. He calls on Elcid, but she appears different when she shows up. She delivers a pre-recorded message to him, congratulating him on their win and informing him that she'll be unavailable to him for 100 days. The power of the Holy Sword is restraining her sentience because she came out forcefully. She tells him to master an aura weapon by then by imitating the Grand Chariot Rodrigo demonstrated to him. On the mention of the Grand Chariot, Leon can't imagine how amazing it was when performed by Rodrigo in the past since it was so powerful, even in a C-rank body like his. Elcid's message self-destructs after advising Leon to train hard once his body heals. Leon remembers how amazing it was when Elcid was controlling his body. After abandoning all useless thoughts, his pupils became as clear as glass and reflected a completely different world. The flow of the atmosphere, the wavelength of the vibrations, and even the ability to see through the distortions in space. That's the pinnacle of vision one can reach, and the Grand Chariot was displayed with such extraordinary vision and aura. Leon resolves to learn it, whatever it takes. There's a knock on the door before Caesar walks in. He then proceeds to tell Leon that the subjugation of Malice ended 3 days ago. As soon as their 5-person team escaped the labyrinth, the abomination ceased to exist, along with the collapse of the labyrinth. It must have been a heretical art linked to the labyrinth itself. 56 people died, and 107 were severely injured during the chaos. Caesar tells him he also investigated the City Eater. It was a truly gruesome art, and thanks to Leon, they were able to defeat it. Caesar addresses him as the hero, and Leon is visibly shocked. Although Caesar had suspicions from the beginning, he was only sure of the fact when the raid team was formed. Leon has always known he wouldn't be able to hide it from him forever, yet it was nothing short of a surprise. No matter how powerful the sun's aura is, it's impossible to slash heretical arts as easily as Leon did. And not only that, Leon did it even though he's not yet capable enough to become a master. Caesar is impressed by Leon's courage to jump into danger despite being inexperienced. The swordsmanship he exhibited in the final battle was what gave his reality away to Caesar, because it matched that of Rodrix, who was the greatest hero in history, and it was him who developed the Sword of 7 Stars called the Grand Chariot. Since records of Rodric's martial art have long since been lost, there could have been only one possibility as to why it has reappeared. Leon asks if he remembers the sword Leon was using in the labyrinth, and then proceeds to pull it out to show it to Caesar. Elcid told him earlier that he could use the holy sword even when Elcid is gone. Caesar comes down on his knees, ashamed that he was not able to sense the almighty goddess's divine energy that was bursting out of the sword. On the question of whether he'd be keeping his identity concealed, Leon gives him a positive response. He'd keep it secret because the holy sword hasn't been completely unsealed yet, and Leon lacks far too much experience. Once he can shoulder the title of hero, he'll definitely reveal himself to the world. Caesare asks permission to tell the Santess about it. The succession ceremony is not yet fully completed, but he's sure she'd be crowned once she hears the news about the new hero. Just when Leon voices his agreement to it, Karen comes to visit him. Leon thinks it's best to keep his definitive answer regarding her secret identity as the coffin keeper hidden. So it's a shocker when she reveals that Caesare already knows about this too. It was because of his aura. Since his and Leon's son auras resonate with each other, he is highly sensitive to anything that interferes with that connection, and the presence of two people with such a rare attribute as shadow being together in one place is odd. Caesare knows the truth about the assassin, but he's ready to give her a chance to be righteous. Assassins usually don't have anything like camaraderie, yet Karen fought with them until the end, even when she was bleeding. He can't forgive her crimes as such, but is willing to put his trust in her as a comrade. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to know the full story of Karen and why she is an assassin under the guise of an adventurer. The story Karen tells is by no means a light-hearted tale. Mixed blood orphans are the most despised people in the world. For Karen, no parents meant no money, no food, and no shelter. She was at the bottom of the barrel and lived a perilous life in the slums until someone saved her. But was she really saved? No, because the hand of salvation had nothing good in store for her. Out of destitution, she was raised as an assassin. Owing to her dark elf blood, her talents came out early, and she succeeded in countless assassination missions. The organization that took her in grew stronger with Karen's continuous success, as did her own status. And then, when she was skilled enough, she killed the leader of the organization and rose to the position of leader of the top 3 slums. She freed the orphans from the organization, ridding it of all evil, and, in a desire to start her life over with a new identity, she registered herself as an adventurer. Presently, Karen requests that Caesare consider her accomplishments in the subjugation and sentence her to labor work instead of jail. But Caesare leaves the decision to Leon, the hero. When Karen asks why that is, Leon debates whether he should tell her about his own true identity. Coming to a decision, he raises his fist and, showing her the golden symbol on the back of his hand, tells her to choose her punishment. Although not even a hero has the right to forgive an assassin, there's no need to brandish a sword against someone who is repenting for her sins. So Leon gives her 2 options. Leon recovers a week after the battle against Malice and leaves the guild after a brief meeting with the guildmaster, who, Leon later tells Karen, wanted to raise him to the rank A as a reward for his accomplishments, but Leon refused the offer. He had also offered to introduce him to the Lord, which, again, Leon refused. Understandably, after listening to this, Karen is of the opinion that he is a fool. Karen deems Leon an idiot for refusing a fortune that was being handed to him. Leon explains that if news of his accomplishments in this subjugation spreads throughout the continent because of that, it'd lead to his existence being found out by another group of Malice, which he is not ready to fight. He has to keep training and become skilled enough to not shame the Holy Sword. Karen now understands why Leon asked her to be his comrade. He asks if she has made a decision yet, as she leads him to an old tree. She tells him that, before she accepts, she wants to be honest. Karen doesn't feel a single shred of guilt for the blood she stained her hands with until now. She couldn't have survived this long if she did. For someone like her, who was born at the bottom of a ditch, their deaths and suffering were good for her. She tells him that she doesn't want there to be any more people like her. If Leon can grant her this one thing, Karen will dedicate her life to him. Leon doesn't have to think too long before accepting her wish, as he remembers Eltsid's last words to him. On that day, as Leon takes her hand, the coffin keeper dies and only Chiron lives. After a while, Leon asks Chiron about what happened to Khan, who tells him that the day after the subjugation was over, Khan collected his assets in the slums and ran away from the city. No one knows where he went. Leon thinks it's understandable. He ran away. Almost half of the slums collapsed during the subjugation, and all that's left is for them to be swept away. Not only that, as long as there's a record of him having cooperated with Malice, he won't be able to escape punishment from the Holy Iron Chain Knights. Karen then asks him about his plans for the future. Leon does have a vague plan, After getting promoted to B rank, he was going to head to the Titan mountain range, but the problem is that El Cid is asleep right now. Just then, Leon is reminded that Karen is an A-rank rogue and a special class assassin, with detection and searching skills, the ability to use the environment to her advantage, her mobility, and much more. He tells Karen that he'll be in her care before leading her towards Caesare's church. Meanwhile, at the Prima 13th district, the families that evacuated from the 23rd district receive their rations. The man distributing the food tells a grateful mother to go over to the church and pray to the goddess, because she wouldn't have been able to receive such goodwill if it weren't for the church. At the church, the people are praying as a loud explosion shocks the earth. There are around 3 weeks and 2 days until El Cid wakes up. Leon will only be able to face him if he learns how to make his aura tangible by then. He also needs to try out the Grand Chariot, for which he hasn't even learned the basic techniques. El Cid needs to hang on and wait for him. At the church, Leon and Karen sparred against each other. Karen is quick and dodges Leon's attacks before coming up behind him with a dagger pointed at his head. Leon backs off abruptly, which makes Karen compliment his footwork. She tells him he's more suited to be an assassin than a knight. She then informs him that his movements are similar to those of rangers and his techniques are exceptional, but he's still far from mastering them. Karen charges at Leon with a speed that creates an afterimage. He will have to use his vision if he wants to keep up. After a keen observation, Leon understands that the left one is fake and goes for the real one. Karen manages to dodge and move away just in time before she proposes to test how much he can really see. She creates a mirage that conjures up multiple copies of herself, which Leon realizes are not simple clones. He then notices that her speed is lower than before, but this phenomenon that disorients his eyes is the problem. It messes up his sense of direction and distance. As he contemplates his next move, Karen is already behind him, her dagger poised at his neck. Karen has thus won their match, which means 102 wins out of 102 matches. Leon did pretty well during the Malice subjugation, so he thought he'd grown quite a bit. But the difference between him and Karen is too large. When he asks Karen for a review of his performance, she tells him he did well. If he can see her afterimages, then even a world-class assassin will have a hard time against him. He's already more skilled than most B ranks. She tells him that aura weapons, a requirement for B rank, are useless if they don't hit, and it'd be hard to hit Leon with his eyes and footwork. Most assassins fall behind adventurers of the same level, but they can win because of techniques that throw their opponents off guard and the methods they use to win by any means necessary. That is also a form of victory. The Coffin Keeper eliminated her targets that way. To summarize Leon's pros and cons, Karen admits he has solid fundamentals and a good eye, so he doesn't fall for tricks. But that's all there is. He doesn't have a knack for tricking his enemies. In other words, he'll have a hard time getting his momentum back once he loses it. But Karen tells him not to think too hard about it. Ploys are simply to make up for the difference in skill. It's just preparation to lay the foundation for counterattacks. In short, Leon lacks creative attacks and movement. He knows Karen is right. Karen teaches Leon about aura, attributes, and methods of training. She explains to him that aura is power made by purifying the user's body. It's basically the nature of the user, the basics of the subject's life, experience, mind, and so on. Training your aura means improving the purity and strength of your nature. For example, the training methods for a fire attribute aura could be breaking something, fighting someone, or exploiting themselves. Most actions of fire result in purification. The difficulty of training depends on what your attribute is. As one of the attributes that symbolize the goddess, the sun aura attribute manifests for the greatest warriors throughout generations. Karen asks Leon what nature he thinks of when he thinks about the sun. Leon thinks it catches the world with its endless light and removes obscure darkness. Just then, he gets the idea that if he pulls the flow of the bubbling aura into his body with his mind, he can feel it focusing on his fingertips. It feels like he could be burned by it at any second. With some effort, Leon conjures up a photosphere, but it's not enough to be used as an aura weapon. Still, he is happy to have produced it, but then it bursts, slightly injuring his arm. Karen commends his efforts at being able to maintain an aura outside his body, even for a few seconds. That was close to an aura weapon. If he's able to make it bigger and more stable, it'll be complete. Just then, Caesare enters the room after having finished his patrol. He holds up an envelope and informs them that he has brought a message from the Santess. Meanwhile, after receiving 10 bishops' worth of divine energy by herself, the 8th generation Saintess, Elahan, the strongest Saintess who will support the soldiers, is born. 300 years ago, the great hero, the previous King Rodrigo, and the first Santess realized their powerlessness on that journey. She prayed behind the soldier and didn't stop pleading to obtain someone's power through goodwill. The clergyman needed to take from her the power to eradicate evil. The one who founded the will of the previous generation was the divine Iron Lock. They built one of the strongest squadrons on the continent ever, and through the name of the goddess, the strongest Saintess became the vice commander. With that in mind, Elahan has a very blessed destiny. The new Saintess is then urged into battle as a test. She dons the strongest battle gear and brandishes the great mace before she is taken to the mountains. There, she is shown the world's strongest sword mark left by the previous king, and the marks left by the previous Saintesses during their succession ceremonies. Now, it's her turn. Although there's still half a year left until the day of the oracle, Leon is so brave and strong that he has put the Santess to shame. She wants to become a Saintess worthy of him, and is eager to see him in person. On the other hand, as Caesar is reading her letter to Leon, he assures him that as someone who's received the highest devotion and qualifications, she'll be of great help to him. But Leon is also worried that he needs to be skilled enough to avoid being embarrassed in front of her. He's grasped a lead on the aura weapon, and all that's left now is the image. He goes on to ask Caesare what image he used in order to complete his own aura weapon. Horrified, Karen tells him it's forbidden to ask any aura user that question, because it's like asking them about their weaknesses, and no one wants to readily tell that to anyone. But Caesare doesn't mind and tells Leon that he uses the moon's state as his image. The moon's phases determine the amount of power he needs. If it's a crescent, then the power he pulls is less. When he wants to go all out, it's the full moon, and it's the half moon when he wants to stay somewhere in between. There are also transformers like the new moon and lunar eclipse. Leon is awed by his use of 5 images. However, since the sun doesn't change states like that, he can't really construct images like Caesare, but covering the sun is possible. If he understands the eclipse as an image of amassing power, then the sun is continuously burning bright, and he can figure out the problem regarding the coexistence of its continuous nature. He's on to something, and Caesare can tell that. Leon wants to try it out immediately, so they go out into the open field. Caesare throws his chain at him, and Leon blocks it, but actively using the aura is still tough. Even though Caesare is controlling his strength, it still feels like an attack from an aura weapon that'll rip his skin off if it should even brush him slightly. He can't just keep dodging and evading it. He needs to read its trajectory and look for an opening. Since using a weapon like a steel chain requires maintaining a distance, if Leon can close the distance, he'll block half the technique. So he runs forward, wanting to dodge the attack, but the chain snakes around him, closing in. Trapped, Leon attempts to reproduce a 7-star sword, the Sword of Eclipse. Leon's first goal is the 2nd star in the Grand Chariot constellation, Merak. It's better to manifest it with his own will than to put it on subconsciously. He has to first compress the aura, cover his blade with it, and contain it within, but the method for releasing it was blocked. The solution to the aura's materialization is the Sword of Eclipse, so he calls upon the image of a solar eclipse and slices the chain in half. Humble as always, Leon thinks it's still an incomplete technique, and that he's still very far off from completing the 7-star sword. He's glad nonetheless that he's at last made a trump card he can use against his opponent. Meanwhile, Cesare's all praise. Karen comes at that moment to announce the arrival of a guest. It's the reception girl from the guild named Rise. She's brought him a magic potion and the reward from Count Blaine, a bracelet with interdimensional magic. Karen recognizes it as an object that costs hundreds of gold. She goes on to show her earrings, which are of the same type as those in which she stores all her daggers. Rise has also brought news of Leon's promotion to B rank. Leon shows her his aura weapon before she hands him the golden badge. As Leon takes it, he remembers El Cid and regrets his absence. Finally, Rise tells him of the request for a top escort mission. It's to go up the Titan mountain range with a simple detour through Blaine. They'll be leaving once their supplies are prepared. It was decided that Leon would receive Caesare's help since he had authority and a network, and Rise would also be in touch. Until the merchants contact them, they return to training. Leon is gravely impressed by Karin's speed, and that means he can't rely on his eyesight. From the beginning, the training with Karin was to strengthen his vision, and in order to do that, he needed to know how to use the aura sense. He observes the change in the wind and the shaking of the earth, and he can finally feel it. He has at least learned aura sense, it seems. Just when the training ends, Caesare brings news of a meeting with the merchants that afternoon. Inside the tent of the merchant, Leon introduces himself as a B-rank adventurer, and the merchant introduces himself as Arnold from the Storm Merchanty. When he shakes Leon's hand, they recognize each other's callus-filled swordsman hands and immediately begin trusting each other. As they start talking, Arnold informs them that they have a limited budget and do not have the capacity to hire more escorts. Leon asks if he's aware how dangerous the road to Titan's range is, and if he would feel reassured to have an A-rank adventurer with them. Arnold leaps at the offer, but isn't sure if an A rank would want to escort a small merchantry. Just then, Karin flipped out her A-rank medal and gave her late introduction. She agrees to be paid the same as a B rank so as not to be a burden on the merchant's finances. Arnold is grateful for her graciousness and promises to treat her properly next time. The two then take their leave, and on their way, Leon notices a mercenary at the merchant campsite. This is the first time he's seen one up close. During the subjugation, the mission areas were different, so he didn't run into them. They look scary, but the stares he's receiving from them don't look friendly. Karin tells him that mercenaries tend to be biased against adventurers, so they need to keep their distance. Later, Leon stands at the edge of the city of Blaine, unable to believe it's time to say goodbye to it. He left the cage of the academy, and here, in this city, went through and met a lot of people. It will be difficult to forget this place. He remembers that he wanted to leave after El Cid woke up, but he couldn't miss this deal with the merchants. That'll take him to the Titan mountain range. Another chance like this would never come along. More importantly, even though he had no choice but to get El Cid's help at the end of the subjugation battle, he needs to stop relying so heavily on her. The next day, as they prepare to leave for their journey, Caesare bids the two of them goodbye and blesses them with the goddess's protection. They thank each other for all their help before Caesar holds out something to give to Leon. It's a divine item with divine magic cast on it. Divine magic can be used for recovery, so Leon can use it to bring out the holy sword in a tough situation. Leon thanks Caesare for the important item that'll be of great help since El Cid is sleeping. The elf then tells him it has a hidden function. If he shows this necklace to the Holy Order's commander, he will be able to mobilize the nearby Holy Iron Chain Knights. Someone who isn't the owner can only use it once, so Caesar warns him to be careful with it. Leon thanks him profusely, and they set off. At the merchant's camp, Leon and Karin are served a hearty meal for breakfast. However, the special treatment proves to be troublesome as they notice the nasty glares from the mercenaries. The merchant's caravan is moving faster than Leon expected. It's because they are using magic horses on the carriages, Karin explains. Weight minimization is the most useful and often used magic. It's cheap and long-lasting. It's very convenient, but it's not entirely beneficial. For carriages, shock absorbance is weak. They need to remove the magic from rough places like the Titan mountain range. That's why they need to save as much time as they can right now. Later, the caravan sets up camp at sunset. Karin prepares to take a nap, and Leon gets out of the carriage. He sees the group working together as a whole, like they're one body, and he can tell they've worked together for a long time. Just then, the mercenaries approached him from behind. They mock him and call him immature, so Leon calls them out on being jealous because they're not being treated as well as him. One of the mercenaries steps up to him, ready to face him off, but Karin swoops in just in time. She tells them Leon can show them his abilities personally if they don't trust him. One of the mercenaries is ready to spar with Leon if Karin mediates fairly, and she agrees. Leon is impressed that things are going exactly as Karen said they would. She had told him if the mercenaries had misconceptions about him, he should smash their heads open with his strength. Skill is everything in a place like this. The conflict between adventurers and mercenaries has been an old problem since the guild separated the two jobs. Leon understands they probably hated seeing a rookie B rank with a pretty A rank. People at the camp start placing their bets for the fight, encouraged by Karen. She even asks the merchant, who whispers a bet in favor of Leon in her ear. The match is announced with Hansen, the Iron Twainail, representing the mercenaries, and Leon, the adventurers. They are not allowed to target each other directly using aura weapons, and they can't use weapons they haven't informed her about, and they can't use scrolls or dark energy. Most importantly, they need to follow her instructions. There is no time limit, and they can't leave the area. Additionally, the moment they harm a spectator, it's an instant loss. The match begins with Hansen using a spear and shield, which is rare for a B rank to be using. The silver peeking through the scratches on the shield does not appear to be normal steel. Hansen reveals that the alloy steel in the shield is made with mithril. He got it as a reward for saving dwarves a few years ago. Leon realizes the mercenary is undermining him and resolves to make him regret it. Leon charges at Hansen, striking his shield with a destructive power that shocks the mercenary. Hansen then starts to retaliate, using one-handed spearmanship centered around diversions and counter-attacking with a mithril alloy shield, a combat style focused on absolute defense. Leon realizes that even he's getting badly damaged when he's attacking. It feels as if he's covered in porcupine spikes. If he used Eclipse, he'd be able to slice the shield, but he's not confident he'll be able to slice just his shield. Making a decision, Leon lowers his stance and lunges at Hansen's shield, delivering a swift kick at its center. It knocks Hansen off balance, and Leon takes advantage and comes up behind him before he can prepare. He takes a powerful swing of his sword, pushing Hansen to his defeat. As Leon is declared the winner, he thinks about how Elcide would have joked about him, pretending to be an assassin if she'd seen that. The other mercenaries are ready to go next, but their leader Gustav makes them realize they're no match for Leon. Gustav then comes up to Leon and begs his forgiveness for misjudging him. He admits that they were upset because they are also B ranks when they are so old. Leon offers his hand for a handshake, proposing to get along from then on. Gustav takes it and promises to repay his debt one day. That night, they build a bonfire and all have drinks together. After reconciling with the mercenaries, the atmosphere within the merchantry improved greatly. To Leon's surprise, there was little profit gained, but he learned how to go up against a mountain orc from Hansen, who was from the north. The place where they were headed could lead to a fight with the mountain orcs at any time, so he needed that information. Not just Hansen. Every mercenary he met boasted about their own strategies and attacks against monsters. In return, the mercenaries ask Leon the most important question: what is his relationship with Karen? The mercenaries tease Leon about Karen, but he protests against all their false insinuations. He is surprised when one of the mercenaries, Hamel, who was a ranger before his class change, expresses that they both have similar movements and have no hierarchy between them, so they must have an intimate senior-junior relationship. Leon brushes it all off. Meanwhile, in the carriage, Karen feels embarrassed. After that conversation, Leon realizes he'll continue to be misunderstood. He needs to use the limited time off the carriage efficiently if he wants to prove himself. Therefore, he requests Gustav for a sparring match, which the latter is happy to comply with. Gustav throws all his strength behind attacking Leon, head-on with his huge blade, and instead of dodging it like he was expecting, Leon manages to block it with his sword, which impresses Gustav. Leon, however, knows that if this were an actual battle, in the next move, he would have been too late to defend himself and would have died. Gustav is an opponent who's hard to win 1 match out of 10 against. He's a high-ranking B rank or a low-ranking A rank. When Leon thanks him for the experience, Gustav is happy to spare his time at any time. However, he tells him he won't be able to again for the time being, because after today, they are going into the forest where they might get attacked by mid-level monsters like trolls because of the size of their merchantry. This excites Leon. Adult trolls are around 4 to 5 meters tall, and compared to other species, their bodies are quite agile, explains Gustav. Unlike what their appearance and bellies would suggest, there are some trolls that skillfully climb trees. Leon is surprised as Gustav further explains that instead of attacking alone, they attack in groups and use goblins and orcs as their subordinates. Leon is glad to receive all this information learned from first, and experience that can't be taught at the academy. The merchants eventually make their way into the forest. Karen wakes up from her nap in the carriage, and Leon informs her about the situation as he sits with his sword held aloft, ready for attack. Karen tells him to take a rest, as they're likely to be attacked the next day at dawn or during the day. Leon settles back into the carriage and follows her advice. After a while, Karen makes a sudden warning to Leon, and at the same time, Hamel smells danger while sitting at the top of the carriage. He knocks an arrow and lets it go straight up, where it bursts into a ball of brilliant light that reveals an ambush of goblins. Karen and Leon jump out of their carriage, ready to fight. Hamel uses his technique, the aura arrow, to kill several goblins in a row. Gustav praises him before getting to work himself. Together, the mercenaries slice away at the goblins, taking them down little by little. Leon is impressed with this teamwork, as previously he had to defeat all the enemies with just his talent. Gustav notices that this is Leon's first time in a battle like this and helps him get moving. Leon charges at the goblins, killing them with single strikes. He feels that it is easier to slice them now than when he did it first with Elsid while training in the forest. He is happy to realize he's grown. The mercenaries' teamwork is quickly taking down the enemies, but the one he is most impressed by is Gustav, who is expertly swinging around his longsword in a forest. As Leon tries to follow suit, he bumps into his team members, steps on their clothes, and gets in the way. Disappointed, he sits away from the battle, wondering how to maintain distance from his colleagues. He needs to find a chance while maintaining his space. This reminds him of something, and he uses a move similar to the 7-star sword, successfully managing to take down the enemy while staying out of the way of his teammates. Karen is happy to note that he has grown again. After a while, they finally managed to kill all the goblins. Gustav sends everyone except the recon team to rest and calls Leon to him. He invites him to a trolls hunt they have already gotten permission for from the merchant. Gustav explains to Karen that since trolls behave differently towards the strong and the weak, they'll run away without looking back if they face an A rank. Karen asks Leon what he wants to do, as this will be his first time facing a troll. Leon thinks about how trolls usually inhabit swamps and rule those environments using regenerative powers and brute force. They are the trolls that appear in adventure stories. They also differ from monsters from the outside, so Leon will gain good experience from fighting one. Since purification won't work when fighting against fragile humans with the Star Sword, it'll work against monsters with special abilities instead. Thus, Leon agrees to do it, just as Karen had expected. She resigns herself to the role of backup, but puts forward one condition. They have to give Leon a chance to have a one-on-one fight with a troll. Leon is excited at the chance to fight one with a troll, as Gustav agrees to Karen's condition. 4 days later, as the caravan moves through the forest, Leon notes the irregularity with which the monsters are attacking them. Goblins on the first and second days, then Nozel and kobolds. He doesn't know what type of monster will attack next, as the monsters have been attacking night and day. They're not even halfway through the forest. Leon wonders if the trolls ordered them to do it. Although those monsters weren't that threatening, the best thing to do is to defeat the one who's controlling them from behind the scenes. Just as Leon is asking if there's a chance the trolls won't attack after all this, Karen notices a huge boulder flying towards one of their carriages. 3 people end up dying under the boulder, which gets Leon angry. Karen then warns him that another one is approaching. This confirms that the trolls are attacking them as panic spreads within their caravan. Leon wonders if he'll be able to cut the boulder using Eclipse, but before he can decide, Gustav leaps into the air and attacks it with his longsword, managing to cut it in 2. He then distributes specific orders for everyone, calming down the panic in an instant. Just then, a whole host of different monsters jumped out at them from the forest. At the rate they're coming, Gustav is worried there'll be no end. They need to prioritize killing the trolls. He orders Hamel and Hansen to take 4 mercenaries with them to locate the trolls and tells them to start fighting as soon as they find them. Karen informs Gustav that she and Leon will go to the ones that are in the farthest spot from here, and he leaves it to them. The two of them rush through the forest, killing the small animals that block their path. They eventually come upon a troll holding a boulder in its hand. Karen tells Leon to fight it to his heart's content while she blocks its escape route. Using the way the mercenaries adjust and control their distance, Leon plans to approach the troll's range of perception before it notices. Then, he intends to take advantage of its night vision, which is a special trait of monsters. Leon uses the light of purification that burns the troll's eyes and charges at it, expecting to finish it in one go. But the troll blindly throws a storm of sand and rocks towards Leon. Much to Leon's shock, the troll recovers from the light of purification faster than he'd expected. It unsheathes a club and moves to attack Leon. Although it's a shabby-looking piece of wood, Leon knows that getting hit by something so large could be fatal. The only time he can take a hit like that head-on is when he's sparring. From here on out, Leon can't afford to make a single mistake. He dodges the club's strike and charges at the troll, but it doesn't let him get as close as he wants. The troll then chucks another fistful of sand and rocks towards Leon, and in his distraction, it delivers its attack. Leon manages to get out of the way just in time. He realizes he has no other choice and decides to use his incomplete technique. The troll makes another charge at Leon, who knows that it's aiming for the moment when he's focused on gathering his aura so it can use its body weight to attack. This is exactly what Leon wants. He activates Eclipse, a physical attack with ultra heat, and in lightning-fast movements, he cuts off one of the troll's legs. It immediately starts to retreat, but Leon isn't ready to let anyone die in vain, and so, in his rage, he manages to pull off the Grand Chariot technique Mirak. It leaves a path of explosive destruction behind it, with the pieces of the troll's body strewn about. Leon is thankful he didn't miss. But he didn't think that Merak would use up so much aura when it releases power. Even if his body were in perfect condition, he wouldn't be able to use it a second time with the current amount of aura he has. Karen comes up to him, impressed by his victory. As he is celebrating his achievement, he falls unconscious on Karen's lap. Leon dreams of floating in a dark space. He abruptly gets worried about being asleep when he doesn't have the time for it. While he's resting, Lion's probably getting a lot stronger. He mustn't lose to him. Leon wakes up inside the carriage. He tries to sit up, but a wave of pain drops him right back down. On his wrist, he spots the bracelet Caesar gifted him, to be used at times exactly like these. He activates its recovery magic and immediately feels better. It seems to be much more effective than he had thought. Karen swings upside down from the roof of the carriage to find Leon awake and moving around. He asks her what happened after he fell asleep, so she proceeds to tell him that the troll hunt was a huge success. They caught 3 out of 4 of them, and the one that ran away was badly beaten up, so it'll probably never come back to the forest again. The two of them walk to where the corpses of the trolls have been laid out. Karen informs Leon that if they exchange them for money, they will fetch approximately 90 gold pieces. This is because their blood is the basic ingredient in high-quality potions, so magicians buy their bodies quite often. However, Karen tells him that the one Leon killed is in 2 pieces and has lost most of its blood, so it won't be able to fetch as much money. When Karen walks away from him, Leon observes the bodies of the trolls. The first one got attacked by at least 4 different types of weapons. The second one is his, and the third, the one with the brutally mangled face, was obviously killed by Gustav. The merchant approaches them at that moment. He praises their efforts in completing their respective duties and thanks them. When Leon asks how many casualties resulted from the attack, he tells him that 8 people died and 21 were injured. They don't have any who are seriously injured, but several people are going to stay behind at the next village. This depresses Leon, so Karen diverts the conversation towards their payment. After a bit of haggling, they settle for 15 gold. Leon asks Karen why she settled for so little money when the merchant was ready to give more, and she tells him that if they receive someone's favor, they will also have to return it one day. Gustav comes up behind him, happy to see Leon awake and uninjured. He asks him about the technique with which he killed the troll, but Leon tells him it's a humble and incompetent technique. He then inquires after Gustav's colleagues, who tells him that they are perfectly alright if just a little scratched up. He brushes away Leon's worry, telling him that anyone who takes on dangerous work is always prepared to die. Karen offers him some consoling words of her own to make him feel better. She then asks him if he knows about the desert zone. We really hope that you enjoyed the first part of this manhwa. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.